Chapter 371. Entering the sealed grounds. The sealed grounds was filled with countless holes and sand. It was a desolate and decadent place. Thud, thud, thud. Landing lightly on the evil creature's head, Zhuowen's eyes were filled with coldness as he stared at the dying evil creature. Don't kill me, I beg you. The evil creature's huge eyes were filled with fear and it started to beg for mercy. Zhuowen shook his head and sneered, do you think it's useful to beg for mercy now? Since you've lost, your fate is sealed. So, go to hell. Clang. The blood-red spear made a buzzing sound as it pierced through the air and pierced the evil creature's head. The sharp spear pierced through the gaps between the curled scales and pierced the evil creature's flesh like a hot knife through butter. The powerful Yuan power used the blood-red spear as a medium and smashed the insides of the evil creature's head into mush. Damn it. If you kill me, you'll die a horrible death too. The intense pain caused the evil creature to howl at the sky. Its eyes were wide open as it stared at Zhuowen with hatred. Its life force slowly dissipated and it died with its eyes wide open. This was originally a battle to the death. Begging for mercy before death is such a joke. Zhuowen said indifferently as he shook his head with a mocking smile. The moon demon dragon's pine spear seems to be devouring the essence blood of this evil creature. Just as Zhuowen was about to pull out the moon demon dragon's pine spear, he suddenly realized that the spear in his hand was acting strangely. He could not help but mumble to himself. Kid. It seems like the essence blood of this evil creature contains a trace of the dragon clan's bloodline. Otherwise, the moon demon dragon's pine spear would not be so eager to absorb its essence blood. Xiao Hei's voice suddenly rang out in his mind. Hearing this, Zhuowen felt relieved. The moon demon dragon's spine spear was originally refined from the moon demon dragon's spine in ancient times. Furthermore, it was a young moon demon dragon spine spear. Therefore, this spear was much more malleable than other soul treasures. As a member of the dragon clan, the moon demon dragon naturally desired the bloodline of the dragon clan. Ever since the moon demon dragon spine spear absorbed the blood essence of the bloodhorn dragon slaying flood serpent in the blood swamp, it was upgraded from a middle-grade spirit treasure to a high-grade spirit treasure. However, it was still only a low-grade high-grade spirit treasure. With the help of the Moon Demon's secret manual, its power could barely be compared to a high-grade spirit treasure. I wonder if the Moon Demon Dragon Spine Spear can be upgraded to a high-grade middle-grade spirit treasure after absorbing the blood essence of this evil being? Looking at the Moon Demon Dragon Spine Spear that was continuously absorbing the essence blood of evil creatures, Zhuowen revealed a trace of a smile on his face. The Moon Demon Dragon Spine Spear that was complemented by the Moon Demon's secret codex was of great help to him. Being able to raise the grade of the Moon Demon Dragon Spine Spear naturally made Zhuowen feel pretty good. While the Moon Demon Dragon Spine Spear is absorbing the blood essence, I should take advantage of this time to properly recuperate from my injuries. With that, Zhuowen directly sat down cross-legged on the evil being's head. After swallowing a few healing pills, he silently closed his eyes and began to recuperate. Zhuowen had not won this battle easily. The full-force attack of the evil being was not easy to bear. Although Zhuowen had cultivated the Jadestone body tempering method to the 6th level and his body was far stronger than an ordinary half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator, he still felt the blood in his body boil and roil. There were faint signs of a backlash. Not far away, Gu Xian and the other two watched as Zhuowen sat cross-legged and recuperated. They did not dare to disturb him in the slightest and could only wait silently. Whoosh! The sound of something breaking through the air rang out. Soon after, a white ascension boat shot through the air and finally stopped not far away from Gu Xian and the other two. It then slowly descended. Priest Jin Hua, the 3 high priests, and the 5 elders led the tribesmen of the Clearwater tribe off the boat and gathered towards Gu Xian, Priest Qiushui, and Hu Wuying. During the process of disembarking from the ship, everyone saw the mountain-like evil creature's corpse not far away, especially the slender figure sitting cross-legged on the evil creature's head. Looking at the figure, everyone's eyes involuntarily revealed a look of reverence. They knew that the evil creature was killed by this person. Priest Qiushui. High Priest. A group of people gathered and came to Priest Qiushui's side. Among them, the 5 elders asked in a probing manner, "Qiushui, is that evil thing really dead?" Priest Qiushui smiled faintly, "Don't worry. The evil being has been completely dealt with by young Master Zhua. In the future, our Clearwater tribe will no longer have to worry about anything. Speaking of which, we still have to thank young Master Zhua." After she finished speaking, the 5 elders and the tribesmen of the Clearwater tribe revealed a relaxed expression. The evil being's existence had always been a threat to the survival of their tribe. Now that it had been dealt with, it was undoubtedly an undeniable benefit to their tribe. The High Priest is right. This is all thanks to young Master Zhua. If it weren't for him, our Clearwater tribe would still have to constantly be on guard against the evil being's threat. The 5 elders looked at each other and smiled as they spoke. On the other hand, Gu Xian and Hu Wuying sneered. When Zhuowen was struck down by the evil being, this group of people ran away faster than anyone else. They even indiscriminately blamed Zhuowen. Now that the evil being had been dealt with, their faces changed faster than anyone else. However, Gu Xian and Hu Wuying did not intend to pursue the matter. After all, they would not be staying in the Clearwater tribe for long. When the time came, they would leave through the space-time array and head to the Holy City after obtaining the green crystal jades from the sealed land. After waiting for another hour, a clear buzzing sound suddenly rang out from the blood-red great spear. Then, the great spear trembled and automatically shot out from the evil being's body. Zhuowen, who was sitting cross-legged on the head of the evil being, slowly opened his eyes. The corners of his mouth revealed a trace of a smile. With a light step, he leaped into the air and easily caught the flying moon demon dragon spine spear in his hand. At this time, the moon demon dragon spine spear did not change much compared to before. However, from the body to the tip of the spear was covered with a rich dark red color. Compared to the previous blood-red color, it was slightly dimmer. However, the aura emitted from the spear made Zhuowen quite satisfied. Looks like the dragon tribe bloodline within this evil object is quite rich. It actually managed to raise the demon moon dragon spine spear from a low-rank soul treasure to a high-rank middle-rank soul treasure in one go. Zhuowen joyfully said as he felt the powerful aura being transmitted from the spear. After putting away the moon demon dragon spine spear, Zhuowen immediately noticed that not far away, Gu Xian, Hu Wuying, and the tribesmen of the Qingshui tribe were all staring at him. Ignoring the others, Zhuowen directly went in front of Gu Xian, Hu Wuying, and Priestess Qiushui. He cupped his hands in a sincere manner and said, "Brother Gu, Brother Hu, and Priestess Qiushui, thank you for risking your lives to save me. Brother Zhua. You are too polite. With your strength, you did not need us to save you at all. Just now, we were just doing something unnecessary. Moreover, the 3 of us were saved by you." Gu Xian said with a hollow laugh. Hu Wuying and Priestess Qiushui were also a little embarrassed. Just as Gu Xian said, the 3 of them really did not help at all. Instead, they were more of a hindrance to him. "Since you are so considerate, then I, Zhuowen, will naturally accept your kindness," Zhuowen said seriously. When it came to dealing with people, Zhuowen was still very principled. Although Gu Xian and the others did not help at all, they did not hesitate to fight against the evil creatures in order to save him. This courage and attitude made Zhuowen's heart feel slightly warm. Seeing Zhuowen so serious, the 3 of them were quite moved. In the end, Priestess Qiushui said with a smile, "Young Master Zhua is indeed a man of character." Qiushui is impressed. "Also, don't the 3 of you want to go to the Holy City? I wonder if you can bring me along." "You also want to go to the Holy City?" Zhuowen said with a little surprise. "Yes." Qiushue originally planned to go to the Parthenon Temple in the Holy City to learn the Tao of Formations. If I enter the Parthenon Temple, I will be able to receive the personal guidance of the Saintess. This will be of great help to my cultivation of the Tao of Formations, so. Priestess Qiushue clenched her jade-like hands and secretly sized up Zhuowen. Since Priestess Qiushue said so, I naturally will not refuse. However, Priestess Qiushue, you should first bring us to the sealed place and find the green crystal jade. There is not much time left for the three of us. Nodding slightly, Zhuowen looked at Priestess Qiushue and said. Hearing this, Priestess Qiushue nodded. She turned around and said a few words to the people of the Qingshui tribe. Then, Priestess Qiushue led Zhuowen and the others to the depths of the sealed place. The center of the sealed place was where the sealing stone tablet was located. Looking at the deep cave in the center of the sealing stone tablet fragment, Zhuowen shook his head and smiled bitterly. When he first broke the sealing stone tablet, he really did not notice the cave under the sealing stone tablet. The green crystal jade vein is in this cave. The three of you only need to follow behind me. Although the evil creatures have been eliminated, there are still many formations and restrictions left in this cave. If you accidentally trigger them, it will be extremely troublesome. As she spoke, Priestess Qiushue took the lead and entered the cave. Zhuowen and the other two naturally followed closely behind her. Once they entered the cave, Zhuowen and the other two felt a cold aura invading them. The light in the cave was extremely dim. Fortunately, the few of them were warriors with good cultivation. Even in the dark, they could see clearly. The cave was extremely deep and connected in all directions. There were always many corners extending from time to time, like a maze. Fortunately, with Priestess Qiushue leading the way, the few of them walked quite smoothly. Along the way, the four of them would occasionally encounter some traps and formations. Fortunately, they were all broken by Priestess Qiushue one by one. After about an hour, the four of them finally arrived at the deepest part of the cave. This was a huge natural hall, surrounded by steep rock walls. From time to time, water droplets would drip from the surface of the rock walls. The sound of the water droplets hitting the ground was quite clear and pleasant. The three of you, the green crystal jade vein is right in front. Priestess Qiushue pointed ahead and said. Chapter 372. Refining the crystal jade vein in front of them was a rather short passageway. On both sides of the passageway, there were pieces of sparkling and translucent fiery red ores. These ores were shaped like flames. If one did not look carefully, they would think that the passageway was filled with flames instead of ores. However, Zhuowen stared straight at the fiery red ores in the passageway. He could not help but whisper, shaped like flames, with many horns on the sides. Hot like flames, color like cinnabar. Isn't this the refining crystal jade mentioned in the jade stone body tempering technique? The jade stone body tempering technique mentioned that refining crystal jade was a type of jade that was refined from magma in the depths of the earth. The refining crystal jade was filled with a fiery heat. The shape of the jade itself was extremely similar to flames, but it was too rare. Refining crystal jade was too rare in the outside world. Even the Xianbao Pavilion, a top chamber of commerce in the Qing Xian Empire, did not have any refining crystal jade. However, the densely packed mineral veins in front of Zhuowen were actually all refining crystal jade. This made Zhuowen feel a little dizzy. Since when did refining crystal jade become so worthless? Priest Qiushue, Gu Xian, and Hu Wuying also noticed Zhuowen's strange behavior. Priest Qiushue asked with some surprise, "Young Master Zhuo, do you recognize this green crystal jade?" "I do. This green crystal jade is called refined crystal jade where we come from. This kind of jade is extremely important to me. I wonder if Priest Qiushue is willing to part with a portion of it." Zhuowen stared at Priest Qiushue with a fervent gaze. When Gu Xian and Hu Wuying heard about refining crystal jade, their faces were also filled with shock. It was obvious that the two of them had also heard of refining crystal jade. In an instant, their gazes became much more fervent. Seeing the strange expressions of the three, Priest Qiushui also knew that this green crystal jade would be very useful to Zhuowen. She smiled and said, "Young Master Zhuo, why are you treating me like an outsider? After all, you were the one who dealt with the evil creature. You are the benefactor of our Qingshui tribe. The reserves of this green crystal jade are quite rich. If young Master Zhuo wants it, feel free to take it." When Priest Qiushui said this, Zhuowen gratefully cupped his hands and said to Gu Xian and Hu Wuying, "You know the value of this refining crystal jade. And the reserves of this mineral vein is also extremely rich. You don't need to hold back and take as much as you can, and of it." After he finished speaking, Zhuowen and the other two entered the tunnel. Then, the three of them began to plunder the refining crystal jade on both sides of the tunnel like a whirlwind sweeping away clouds. Looking at the expressions of Zhuowen and the other two, Priest Qiushui could faintly guess that this green crystal jade was somewhat extraordinary. However, she didn't take it to heart. In the eyes of the lost tribe, the green crystal jade's main function was to provide energy for the formation. Apart from that, it didn't have many other uses. Moreover, the one thing that their sandstone island didn't lack was green crystal jade veins. Therefore, she didn't pay much attention to it. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Zhuowen and the other two moved forward in the tunnel. They frantically stripped the refining crystal jade on both sides of the tunnel and threw them into their qiankuan bags. The three of them walked for nearly 100 meters. The refining crystal jade along the way had basically been plundered by the three of them. However, the tunnel seemed to be endless. They still couldn't see the end of the tunnel. "Our qiankuan bags are full. We can't hold any more refining crystal jade." Suddenly, Gu Xian and Hu Wuying stopped abruptly. They looked at the tunnel and the many refining crystal jades that were still very deep. Their faces were full of regret. In addition to regret, the two of them were more ecstatic. After all, their qiankuan bags were only intermediate-level qiankuan bags. The storage space was much smaller than that of advanced-level qiankuan bags. Even so, the value of the refining crystal jades that filled their intermediate-level qiankuan bags had far exceeded the foundation of an intermediate-level city. Even if they returned in defeat from the Vitality Tower, the two of them could completely turn Rot-10 Armor City, which was originally a low-level city, into an intermediate-level city by relying on the refining crystal jades in their qiankuan bags. In that case, you should leave the tunnel first. I still have some storage space in my qiankuan bag. I should be able to store some more refining crystal jades. Zhuowen nodded slightly. After saying this, he once again rushed into the depths of the tunnel. Gu Xian and Hu Wuying didn't argue. They nodded and happily returned to the entrance of the tunnel. The refining crystal jades that the two of them had obtained were an extremely generous sum of money for them. After advancing another 500 meters in the tunnel, the advanced-level qiankuan bag on Zhuowen's waist was almost full. Therefore, Zhuowen stopped in a timely manner. Looking at the seemingly endless tunnel in front of him, Zhuowen rubbed his chin and said with some surprise, "This tunnel is really deep. I've already advanced nearly 1,000 meters, but I still haven't reached the end. I really don't know where the end of this tunnel leads to. Kid, don't go any deeper. The depths of this tunnel are very dangerous. This Dragon Lord has a premonition that if you go any further, I'm afraid that we'll all be finished." Suddenly, Xiaohei's solemn voice sounded in his mind. Hearing this, Zhuowen was shocked. This was the first time that he had seen Xiaohei so solemn. It seemed that this tunnel was really unusual. "Can you sense what's in the depths of this tunnel? Could it be that some powerful creature is sealed in there?" Zhuowen asked curiously. "I don't know either. Earlier, this Dragon Lord had already probed the depths of the tunnel with my divine sense. However, just as I was about to reach the bottom of the tunnel, this Dragon Lord's divine sense was actually crushed by an extremely powerful force. That force isn't something that a living creature can possess. It's very likely that it's a naturally formed trap. This kind of trap is the most dangerous. Even a saint would be in danger if they entered. Xiao He said solemnly. A naturally formed trap. Zhuowen muttered in a low voice. He could feel the intense fear in Xiao He's voice. In that case, let's leave this tunnel. Anyway, my Qiankuan bag is already filled with refined crystal jades. It's not worth it if we go any deeper. After taking a deep look at the depths of the tunnel, Zhuowen took a step back and went back the way he came. After about a quarter of an hour, Zhuowen returned to the entrance of the tunnel. Gu Xian, Hu Wuying, and Priestess Qiushui were all waiting for him at the entrance. Brother Zhua, you have the most bountiful harvest this time. If I had known that I would encounter so many refined crystal jades in here, I would have steeled my heart and bought a high-grade Qiankuan bag. Gu Xian looked at the bulging Qiankuan bag on Zhuowen's waist with envy. Are you still not satisfied? The amount of refined crystal jades in your middle-grade Qiankuan bag has already far exceeded the resources of an ordinary middle-grade city. Zhuowen rolled his eyes and joked. They chatted for a while more before Priestess Qiushui led them back to the surface. Then, the group of 4 directly entered the Qingshui tribe. In the center of the Qingshui tribe was a huge hall. At this moment, Zhuowen, Gu Xian, Hu Wuying, and Priestess Qiushui were all in the hall. In addition, the 3 high priests and the 5 elders were also in the hall. However, the 3 high priests and the 5 elders were clearly a little reserved. They looked at Zhuowen's figure with great respect. After all, the young man in front of them possessed strength that far exceeded that of an evil creature. With such an expert standing in front of them, it was natural for them to be quite nervous. 5 elders, prepare the space-time array. These are the green crystal jades we just obtained from the sealed place. Quickly set up the array. Priestess Qiushui took out 5 refined crystal jades and handed them to the 5 elders. As you command. After taking the 5 refined crystal jades, the 5 elders hurriedly came to the center of the hall. On the ground in the center, there was a large array that was several feet in size. The array was engraved with cryptic characters and patterns. This array was the only space-time array in the Qingshui tribe. The 5 elders were arranged in 5 different directions of the array. The refined crystal jades in their hands were placed in each corner of the array. Then, the 5 elders began to chant. At the same time, the 5 elders extended their right fingers and pressed them against the surface of the refined crystal jades in front of them. Immediately, Zhuowen felt the energy within the refined crystal jades being stimulated. Sizzle! Sizzle! The 5 refined crystal jades suddenly released clusters of flames. They were like 5 fire dragons that surrounded the array. At the same time, the originally dim array completely lit up. Finally, a white light pillar appeared above the array. Young Master Zhua. The space-time array has been activated. Let's go in now. Priestess Qiushui smiled at Zhuowen. Nodding slightly, Zhuowen and the other 2 looked at each other. Without hesitation, they stepped into the space-time array. Priestess Qiushui took a deep look at the hall before following Zhuowen and the other 2 into the array. Whoosh! The light beam flashed, and the figures of the 4 disappeared into the light beam. When the light beam dissipated, the space-time array was empty. At the same time, on the other side of the sandstone island, there was an oasis tens of thousands of miles away from the sanctuary. This oasis was several times larger than the Qingshui tribe. The tribesmen in the tribe were all abnormally strong. This tribe was called the Tiger Fang tribe. It was the tribe closest to the sanctuary. Normally, when other tribes used the space-time array to go to the sanctuary, they would first arrive at the Tiger Fang tribe and then take the flying ship to the sanctuary. The Tiger Fang tribe was extremely powerful and wealthy. There were more than 10 space-time arrays in the tribe. Just from this point alone, one could see that the Tiger Fang tribe was far more powerful than the Qingshui tribe. Chapter 373. Tiger Fang tribe. This is the tribe closest to the sanctuary. It's called the Tiger Fang tribe. It's one of the strongest tribes on the entire Sandstone Island. Usually, when people from other tribes want to go to the sanctuary through a spacetime formation, they would first go through the Tiger Fang tribe's spacetime formation before taking the ascension ship to the sanctuary. After the four of them stepped out of the spacetime formation, Priest Qiushui introduced the tribe to Zhuowen. Hearing that, Zhuowen and the other two nodded. At the same time, they began to size up the Tiger Fang tribe outside the spacetime formation. The Tiger Fang tribe did look much bigger than the Clearwater tribe. Moreover, many of the people walking around were bronze warriors. On the Sandstone Island, it was actually very easy to identify a warrior's rank. This was because warriors of the corresponding rank would have a badge on their chest. Bronze warriors had bronze badges, silver warriors had silver badges, and gold warriors naturally had gold badges. These badges represented a warrior's glory and strength. Therefore, warriors with ranks on the Sandstone Island would wear the corresponding badge on their chest. Seeing that many of the people walking around were bronze warriors, Zhuowen was slightly surprised. It seemed that the Tiger Fang tribe was indeed much stronger than the Clearwater tribe. After all, the Clearwater tribe only had one bronze warrior, and that was the strongest in the Clearwater tribe, Amir. On the other hand, a bronze warrior like Amir was rather mediocre in the Tiger Fang tribe. More people are coming out. Looks like there's more to be gained. The bronze warriors guarding the two sides of the spacetime formation looked at each other and smiled when they saw that 4 people had come out of the spacetime formation. As they spoke, the 2 bronze warriors came in front of Zhuowen and the other 3. They stretched out their hands naturally and said, "You know the rules. You have to pay a fee to use the spacetime formation of our Tiger Fang tribe. 250 crystals per person. There are 4 of you. Hand over 1,000 crystals." Looking at the 2 bronze warriors in front of him, Zhuowen was startled. He didn't think that he would need to hand over the so-called crystal stones when he came to the Tiger Fang tribe. It was obvious that the crystal stones were the common currency of the Sandstone Island. However, Zhuowen and the others had never even seen the crystal stones before, so how could they have the so-called crystal stones? Right when Zhuowen's group of 3 were hesitating, Priest Autumn Water slowly walked forward and took out a bulging deerskin pouch and said, "2 little brothers. There are 1,000 crystals in here. You can count them." The 2 bronze warriors stared at the deerskin pouch in Priest Qiushui's hands and grabbed it. They couldn't wait to open the pouch and check the crystal stones inside. After checking, the 2 of them revealed a trace of joy and said with a relaxed expression, "Yes. It is indeed 1,000 crystal stones. Since you have paid the fee, you can walk freely in our Tiger Fang tribe. Even if you leave now and head to the sacred region, no one will stop you. Priest Autumn Water, I owe you a favor." Cupping his hands, Zhuowen said seriously. However, in his heart, he was glad that he brought Priest Autumn Water along. It was the right decision. Young Master Zhua is too polite. Compared to the contributions you've made, Qiushui's contribution is insignificant. Alright, after paying the fee, we can leave the Tiger Fang tribe and head to the sacred region. Priest Autumn Water said with a smile. Zhuowen also nodded. Just as he was about to leave, there was a sudden commotion around them. Immediately, Zhuowen and the others felt that the surrounding atmosphere had become a little tense. The 2 bronze warriors guarding the spacetime array lowered their heads slightly and looked behind Zhuowen and the others with a respectful expression. Clear and orderly footsteps slowly came from behind. Zhuowen and the other 3 turned their heads to look, and just happened to see a vigorous young man slowly walking towards them with a team. The young man's face was full of high spirits and arrogance. "I didn't think that the young chief would actually come out to patrol today. This is quite rare. Maybe it's a whim. The young chief's talent is extremely high, and the chief is extremely strict with him. He rarely lets the young chief do a job like patrolling." The 2 guards standing in front of Zhuowen and the others whispered to each other. This also let Zhuoan and the others know the identity of the young man who led the team in high spirits. However, what made Zhuoan feel strange was that the young chief looked to be in his 20s, but the emblem on his chest was actually a silver emblem. Clearly, this young man was a genuine silver warrior with strength of over 100,000 kilograms. At the same time, what Zhuoan didn't notice was that Priest Autumn Water, who was standing behind him, had her hands clasped together. Her eyes faintly revealed a trace of nervousness as she stared at the young man in front of her. The young man completely ignored the respectful gazes of the surrounding tribesmen. Instead, the corner of his mouth was brimming with a smile. He actually walked towards Zhuoan and laughed heartily. Autumn Water. You didn't even inform me that you were coming to the Tiger Fang tribe. Arriving in front of Zhuoan and the others, the young man directly ignored Zhuoan and the other two beside Priest Autumn Water. Instead, he stared at Priest Autumn Water with a burning gaze. His face was filled with joy and excitement. Priest Autumn Water's delicate body trembled slightly. She involuntarily moved closer to Zhuoan and frowned slightly. How did you know that I would come to the sacred region? Did Elder Qianshui tell you? Elder Qianshui was the only female elder of the 5 elders in the Qingshui tribe. She was the old woman with a head full of silver hair. Elder Qianshui had always advocated for a marriage alliance between the Qingshui tribe and the Tiger Fang tribe. After all, the Tiger Fang tribe was an extremely powerful tribe. With such a tie, it would be difficult for the Qingshui tribe not to develop. Moreover, it just so happened that the young chief of the Tiger Fang tribe was extremely fond of Priest Autumn Water. The marriage alliance between the two tribes was completely possible. However, Priest Autumn Water didn't really like the young chief of the Tiger Fang tribe. The name of the young chief of the Tiger Fang tribe was Yanhu. He was an extremely outstanding genius. At the age of 21, he had already reached the level of a silver warrior. In the future, he would inherit the entire Tiger Fang tribe. Logically speaking, Yanhu's talent was good, and his appearance wasn't bad. It wouldn't be bad for Priest Autumn Water to marry the former. However, Yanhu's reputation wasn't too good. He had played with many young girls, and there were even some girls who were directly tortured to death. Therefore, Priest Autumn Water didn't like Yanhu at all. Yanhu grinned and said, "Since you've already guessed it, I don't want to say any more. I think you also understand my intentions. Even the 5 elders of your Qingshui tribe have agreed to the marriage alliance between our two tribes. Don't tell me you won't consider it. Moreover, with the strength of our Tiger Fang tribe, once our two tribes have a marriage alliance, the strength of your Qingshui tribe will increase by a lot. This is a good thing that can satisfy both sides. I think you don't have to reject it, Autumn Water," Yanhu said with a proud smile. Priest Autumn Water coldly smiled and said, "If you can swear in the holy city's Parthenon temple that once our two tribes have a marriage alliance, your Tiger Fang tribe will definitely support our Qingshui tribe with all your strength. If that's the case, then I'll agree to the marriage alliance. Otherwise, don't even think about it." Hearing this, Yanhu's expression instantly changed. Actually, the reason why he wanted to have a marriage alliance with the Qingshui tribe was mainly because of Priest Autumn Water's appearance. In the entire Sandstone Island, Priest Autumn Water's appearance could be considered top-notch. Especially that trace of charm that faintly revealed, it was always able to evoke the evil fire in Yanhu's heart. He couldn't wait to directly press her down and ravage her. Yanhu's original goal was to use the marriage alliance as an excuse to have some fun with Priest Autumn Water. Once he got tired of playing with her, he would naturally abandon her like grass. In the end, this so-called marriage alliance would only be an empty promise. In the past, Yanhu had used the marriage alliance as an excuse to deceive many priestesses of small tribes. After all, their Tiger Fang tribe was really too prosperous. There were countless small tribes that wanted to rely on their Tiger Fang tribe. Therefore, Yanhu took advantage of this loophole and played with many priestesses. However, this Priest Autumn Water before him was very smart. She proposed that if he wanted to have a marriage alliance with her, then he would have to swear in front of the Parthenon temple that he would wholeheartedly support their Qingshui tribe. This way, Yenhu wouldn't be able to take advantage of this loophole. The Parthenon temple was the core of the holy city. It was said that it contained a strange energy. If you didn't fulfill your oath, then it was said that you would be punished by the heavens. This was the temple's punishment for those who broke their oath. This was also the reason why Yenhu's expression changed greatly. If he really swore in front of the Parthenon temple, then he definitely couldn't break his oath. He could only wholeheartedly support the Qingshui tribe. Naturally, Yenhu wouldn't do such a thankless task. Priest Autumn Water. It seems like you're refusing a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Now that you're in my Tiger Fang tribe, do you think you can still escape from my grasp? Originally, I wanted to talk nicely with you, but since you don't appreciate it, then don't blame me. Yenhu's expression darkened. The corners of his mouth revealed a trace of malevolence. He gestured to the troops behind him with his mouth and said, "Capture this woman for me." The guards behind Yenhu suddenly raised their weapons and surrounded Zhuowen's group of 4. Priest Autumn Water's expression changed greatly. She pointed at Yenhu and said, "Yenhu, do you still have any respect for the law?" Ridiculous. In the Tiger Fang tribe, I am the law. You still want to discuss the law with me? Hee hee. After chuckling, Yenhu indifferently glanced at Zhuowen, who was beside Priest Autumn Water. "Kid. Get out of my way, or else I can't guarantee your safety. I'll also give you a chance. Either you let us go, or you die," Zhuowen coldly said as he indifferently looked at Yenhu. Originally, Zhuowen didn't want to cause any trouble, but this trouble came looking for him. Naturally, Zhuowen wouldn't shrink back in the slightest. Yenhu narrowed his eyes and coldly said, "You really have guts. With your skinny arms and legs, you want to be a hero and save the damsel in distress? You're simply courting death. Kill the 3 of them and leave the woman alive." "Yes." Chapter 374. Legendary Warrior Bang Bang Bang. The muffled sound of fists hitting flesh suddenly rang out. Soon after, a series of miserable screams resounded. The dozen or so bronze warriors that had originally surrounded Zhuo Wen's group of 4 were actually sent flying in all directions in an instant. They landed over 10 meters away before violently smashing into the ground. Seeing the dozen or so guards being knocked down in an instant, the surrounding onlookers and the sneering Yenhu couldn't help but be stunned. "Brother Zhuo, you don't have to deal with these small fries, the 2 of us are enough." Brother Gu Xian is right, you've been risking your life all this time, the 2 of us should also contribute a little, leave the small fries to us. Gu Xian and Hu Wuying, who were beside him, clenched their fists and slowly walked out to stand in front of Zhuowen. The dozen or so guards were naturally taken down by the 2 of them. Gu Xian was a warrior at the Great Circle of the Earth King realm, while Hu Wuying was slightly weaker, only at the Great Circle of the Earth King realm. Even so, the 2 of them were stronger than many of the powerful silver warriors on the Sandstone Island. Perhaps only some silver warriors with a strength of 300,000 jin could match the 2 of them. In front of the 2 of them, the bronze warriors were indeed like small fries, unable to withstand a single blow. "Take care of that small fries over there as well. With your strength, you should be able to take care of that so-called young clan leader in a few moves." Nodding slightly, Zhuowen pointed at Yenhu and said, "Hee hee. Although Lord Lu Nantian said that we are not allowed to kill the ancient survivors in the Origin Energy Tower, it should be fine to just cripple him. Brother Hu, let me have this guy," Gu Xian said with a grin. Hu Wuying hesitated for a moment, then nodded in agreement and said indifferently, "Just cripple his limbs, don't kill him." "Don't worry, I know what I'm doing." Gu Xian nodded. Hearing Gu Xian and Hu Wuying talking back and forth, Yenhu's eyes immediately darkened. He roared angrily, "Damn it! These 2 bastards, did they really think they were so great just because they defeated the bronze warrior? Watch as this young master cripples the both of you. Boom! As he spoke, Yinhu let out a furious roar. With a stomp of his foot, he directly charged towards Gu Xian, who was the closest to him. His fist ferociously smashed towards Gu Xian's face. The powerful force even tore through the air, emitting an ear-piercing sound. Yinhu was very tall, at least 2 meters tall. Coupled with his extremely tall and sturdy body, he was almost a head taller than Gu Xian. His aura was many times stronger than Gu Xian's. Gu Xian's gaze was unusually calm from start to finish. He raised his hand slightly and gently extended it. Like a nimble snake, he instantly pinched Yinhu's imposing fist. Cripple me? Perhaps you don't have the qualifications. The corner of Gu Xian's mouth slightly curled. Yuan power suddenly burst forth from his right hand and an extremely powerful force was suddenly released. With a cracking sound, an extremely clear sound rang out. Following which, Yinhu's right hand actually bent irregularly. Ah! A mournful scream suddenly rang out. Yinhu's forehead was filled with sweat and his face was filled with pain. However, his eyes were filled with disbelief. He did not expect that Gu Xian, who looked rather thin and weak, would actually cripple his right hand with just one move. Without waiting for Yinhu to regain his senses, Gu Xian's hands were like lightning and very cleanly crippled Yinhu's 4 limbs. Plop! Yinhu fell face first onto the ground. His mournful screams endlessly rang out, causing one's hair to stand on end. Young clan leader. The dozen guards who were originally sent flying by Gu Xian and Gu Xian hurriedly came to Yinhu's side and helped him up. However, their faces were filled with intense fear. Where did these people in front of them come from? They actually crippled their Tiger Fang tribe's young clan leader with just one move. One must know that their young clan leader was a silver warrior. Looking at the crippled Yinhu, Zhuowen shook his head. This Yinhu was simply reaping what he sowed. He said indifferently, "Let's go." As he spoke, Zhuowen took out Qing Fan boat from his Qiankuan bag. The 4 of them entered Qing Fan boat one after another. With a whoosh, Qing Fan boat shot out like an arrow towards the sanctuary. In the Tiger Fang tribe, the onlookers could only stare blankly at the departing Qing Fan boat and the crippled Yinhu not far away. Looks like the young clan leader kicked an iron plate. These people are not to be trifled with. The 2 people who attacked just now are very strong. To be able to cripple the young clan leader with just one move, they are at least high silver warriors. Didn't you see the conversation between the 2 people who attacked? It seems like the 2 of them are led by the youngest one. I'm afraid that the youngest one is the most terrifying existence among the 3. It can't be. That young man looks to be around 18 years old. If he is stronger than the 2 who attacked just now, wouldn't he be a peak silver warrior? For a moment, everyone in the Tiger Fang tribe was discussing animatedly. They knew that someone who was able to cripple Yinhu in one move would definitely not be weaker than their patriarch. Perhaps this time, the arrogant and despotic young patriarch would really have to suffer in silence. Whoosh! Thousands of miles up in the sky, a green flying boat flew past. On the deck of the flying boat, there were 4 figures, 3 males and 1 female. It was Zhuowen's group of 4 who rowed Qing Fan boat to the sanctuary. Although the Tiger Fang tribe is the closest tribe to the sanctuary, it is still tens of thousands of miles away. If we want to reach the sanctuary, I'm afraid we will need 2 days. On the deck, Priest Qiushui said. Slightly nodding, Zhuowen's eyes revealed a trace of anticipation. He could feel that the control center of the Sandstone Island was definitely in the sanctuary's holy city. If he could guess the location of the control center, the representatives of the other cities would also be able to guess it. He knew that there would be a fierce battle in the holy city. Priest Qiushui. Is there a strange place in the holy city? Or should I say, a different place? Suddenly, Zhuowen tilted his head and looked at Priest Qiushui. Priest Joshua had once told him that the holy city covered a large area and there were many buildings inside. Looking for the so-called control center of the island in such a huge city was like looking for a needle in a haystack. Therefore, he guessed that the control center was definitely in a special place. Special place? Priest Joshua was stunned when she heard this. After pondering for a while, she said, "If you want a special place, it should be the Parthenon Temple." Oh. The Parthenon Temple. Zhuo Wen's eyes flickered. Priest Joshua of the Parthenon Temple had mentioned it when she was arguing with Yenhu. He immediately asked, "Can you tell me what's so special about the Parthenon Temple?" Priest Joshua nodded and said, "Actually, the origin of the holy city is very long. It is said that when the Sandstone Island was first formed, the holy city was already located in the center of the Sandstone Island. In those ancient times, evil creatures almost covered the entire Sandstone Island. They called themselves the Netherworld race and hunted our vestigial race. At that time, it was because of the holy city that our vestigial race was not completely wiped out. Later on, an amazing hero appeared in our vestigial race. His name was Alaz. He was the only warrior who had reached the legendary rank since ancient times. After Alaz became a legendary warrior, he took control of the holy city and became the lord of the holy city. Later on, he borrowed the power of the holy city to seal all the evil creatures on the Sandstone Island. It was because of the rise of Alaz that our vestigial race could become the masters of this Sandstone Island. Unfortunately, after getting rid of the evil creatures, Lord Alaz mysteriously disappeared. No one knows where he went. However, when Lord Alaz left, he left behind a huge temple. That is the Parthenon Temple of the Holy City. Before he left, Lord Alaz spread the word that whoever could pass all the tests of the Parthenon Temple would become the true Lord of the Holy City and wield the ultimate power of the Holy City. From there, they would be able to exert endless power. Since then, the Parthenon Temple has become a sacred place in the hearts of all our vestigial race. At this point, Priest Joshua's beautiful eyes were filled with deep reverence. Obviously, the Lord Alaz she spoke of held a very high position in her heart. However, Zhuowen was indeed a little surprised. He really did not expect that a legendary warrior could appear on this small sandstone island. That was a terrifying existence whose strength alone reached more than 1,000,000 jin. With such tremendous strength, it would only take one punch to seriously injure Zhuowen. You said that Alaz once spread the word that anyone who passed all the tests of the Parthenon Temple would become the true Lord of the Holy City. Then, did the Lord of the Holy City you speak of pass the tests of the Parthenon Temple? Zhuowen asked rather doubtfully. To his surprise, Priest Joshua shook her head and said, "The current Lord of the Holy City is called Ados. He is a descendant of Lord Alaz. Although Lord Ados is a golden warrior and is very powerful, he did not pass the tests of the Parthenon Temple. However, he is now the strongest person on the Sandstone Island. In addition, he is a descendant of Lord Alaz, so we call him the Lord of the Holy City. In fact, Lord Ados does not control the power of the Holy City." Hearing this, Zhuowen's eyes suddenly narrowed, and the corners of his mouth curled up. He knew that the control center that Lu Nantian was talking about was the power of the Holy City that Alaz had mentioned. If he could control the power of the Holy City, he should be able to control the entire Sandstone Island and break through to the second floor. Boom! Just as Zhuowen was a little absent-minded, a violent roar suddenly rang out. Immediately after, Zhuowen and the other two were shocked to discover that in the sky far away, a vast and boundless island was slowly rising like the rising sun. The entire endless ocean was boiling because of the island's ascension. Huge water pillars soared into the sky like water dragons, erupting into extremely beautiful splashes in the sky far away. It's only been 2 days, and someone has already seized the control center of the island. Chapter 375. Reaching the Saint Domain on the first floor of the Yuan Qi Tower, all the representatives of the other cities on the islands of the Endless Ocean raised their heads to look at the huge island in the sky that seemed to blot out the sun. Everyone's eyes were filled with deep shock. The Origin Chi Tower had only been open for a short period of time, but someone had already taken the lead to seize control of the island and opened the passage to the second floor. This really surprised many people. Chi. At the same time, a huge light screen appeared in the void again. At this time, the name of the island and the team that had passed the first floor was displayed in the first position of the light screen. Treasure Island, Pass, House of Marquis Qin. Looking at the golden words on the first position of the light screen, Zhuowen and the other two revealed a look of understanding. The House of Marquis Qin's team had many Ultimate Emperor realm experts. Among them, LV Tao was a monster ranked 15th on the Azure Emperor list. Although Zhuowen and the other two were a little surprised that they were able to pass so quickly, they didn't show too much emotion. As expected of the House of Marquis Qin, they were actually able to seize control of the island and reach the second floor so quickly. The House of Marquis Qin is too strong. If there are no accidents, the House of Marquis Qin will probably take first place in this Origin Chi Tower battle. Gu Xian and Hu Wuying looked at the words on the light screen with surprise, their voices filled with strong envy. Zhuowen, on the other hand, was silent. He just narrowed his eyes and stared at the huge island that was gradually getting farther and farther away. At the same time, Zhuowen also noticed that Priest Qiushui, who was standing beside him, didn't seem to have the slightest feeling about the roar just now. She didn't even notice the huge island that was rising in the distance. It seemed that the vestigial clan living on the island couldn't discover what was happening outside the island. This phenomenon was probably caused by Lu Nantian. Compared to the commotion inside the tower, it was even noisier outside the tower. When Treasure Island was the first to enter the second floor, many of the city lords in the 4 squares outside the tower were shocked. Although they knew that the Mu Qin Marquis estate had a monstrous existence like LV Tao and would definitely obtain first place in the Origin Energy Tower, what shocked them was that the time taken by the Mu Qin Marquis estate's team was a little too short. Only 2 days had passed, yet they had already smoothly broken through the first level of the Origin Energy Tower. Looking at the golden house of Marquis Qin on the light screen, the corners of Lu Nantian's mouth involuntarily curled up into a smile. Clearly, as the owner of the House of Marquis Qin, he was quite proud of the fact that the House of Marquis Qin's team could enter the second level so quickly. Marquis Lu, with a monstrous genius like LV Tao, your House of Marquis Qin should have no problem winning the Origin Chi Tower this time. Originally, I thought that with the rapid progress of the falling star in the past few years, he would be able to compete with your House of Marquis Qin. Now that I think about it, I'm afraid it was simply a fool's dream. The master of the meteorite said with a bit of jealousy. There's no need to be so calculative. Your Jade Lady Starcourt's strength is also not bad, you don't need to belittle yourself. LV Nantian said rather modestly. However, the smile that involuntarily appeared on his face completely betrayed his current mood. The other powerful figures on the platform didn't speak, they just stared at the light screen with a dignified expression. They were very clear about the gap between them and the House of Marquis Qin, so they didn't ask for a rebuff by competing with Lu Nantian. On the Sandstone Island, after the Treasure Island had completely broken through the void and left the first layer, Zhuowen and the other two slowly withdrew their gazes. Soon, we will arrive at the Sacred Realm. At that time, the other 4 advanced cities will also gather in the Sacred City, we need to be careful. There are still 2 days of travel, we can't slack off, we need to improve our strength as much as possible. Zhuowen glanced at Gu Xian and Hu Wuying, said a few words, and then entered the inner cabin of the Qing Fan boat. The Qing Fan boat was very big, there were many rooms in the inner cabin. Zhuowen randomly chose a room and sat cross-legged on the boat. After the qi in his body had completely stabilized, Zhuowen took out a flame-like jade from his Qiankuan bag. It was the refined crystal jade. Of the 4 high-grade cities on the Sandstone Island, the 2 teams from Azure Dragon City and Jiayu City are much weaker. They are only ranked below average among the high-grade cities. However, Nine Dragons City and Thunder Universe City are somewhat terrifying. Especially Nine Dragons City, it is said that they have 3 half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm experts, the strongest of which can break through to the Ultimate Emperor Realm at any time. His strength is probably not weaker than an ordinary Ultimate Emperor Realm expert. Looking at the refined crystal jade in his hand, Zhuowen couldn't help but recall the information regarding Nine Dragons City. At that time, Gu Tian had spent a lot of effort on the information regarding these cities, in order to know oneself as well as the enemy. Therefore, Zhuowen knew that there were many extremely strong team representatives that he needed to pay attention to, and this Nine Dragons City was specifically mentioned by Gu Tian. Nine Dragons City's team has 3 half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm experts, one of which is comparable to an Ultimate Emperor Realm expert. Nine Dragons City should be the most difficult to deal with. If it was a one-on-one battle, I wouldn't be afraid. However, if the 3 half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm experts from Nine Dragons City attack together, even I might not be able to deal with them. Zhuowen frowned as he muttered to himself. Kid, you have enough refined crystal jades now. You can definitely cultivate the jade body tempering technique to the 7th level. At that time, your physical strength will be comparable to a peak Ultimate Emperor Realm expert, and your strength will far surpass that of Otto's. At that time, you won't need to fear Nine Dragons City's team at all. Xiao Hei's voice suddenly sounded in his mind. Nodding slightly, Zhuowen muttered, "Of course I know that. However, I only have 2 days. Even if I have refined crystal jades, I'm afraid that I won't be able to cultivate the jade body tempering technique to the 7th level in 2 days. You should cultivate first. Refined crystal jades have the effect of tempering the body. Under the effects of refined crystal jades, even if it's only 2 days, the quality of your physical body will increase by a lot." Xiao Hei said somewhat helplessly. That's true. I just don't know if the effects of refined crystal jades are as obvious as described in the jade body tempering technique. After muttering to himself for a while, Zhuowen locked his gaze onto the refined crystal jades in his palm. Taking a deep breath, he urged the yuan power in his body to drill into the flame-like jades. Sizzle. The sound of something burning suddenly rang out. Under the guidance of the yuan power, the refined crystal jades in Zhuowen's palm actually emitted an extremely hot aura. Following which, a dense red flame burst out from the refined crystal jades and enveloped Zhuowen's entire body. The blazing high temperature directly burned Zhuowen's body. Under the scorching heat, Zhuowen's skin actually began to become extremely charred and his flesh began to curl up. Looking at the faint signs of his skin being charred, Zhuowen could not help but be shocked. He hurriedly urged the jade body tempering technique and the charred surface of his skin was immediately dispelled. His skin emitted a jade-like luster. This refined crystal jades is really extraordinary. The temperature contained within it is so high. If I don't use the jade body tempering technique, even I will find it difficult to withstand such high temperature. Looking around at the surrounding flames, Zhuowen's eyes revealed a trace of surprise. He could feel that although the temperature of these flames was almost comparable to that of an earth-grade flame, there was not a trace of invasion or destruction. Instead, it seemed to be extremely gentle. Seeing the flames emitted by the refined crystal jades, Zhuowen finally understood why the refined crystal jades were the most suitable for tempering the body. Such gentle flames could gradually promote the body to continuously adapt to the high temperature and achieve the effect of tempering the body. The human body was extremely fragile. If it was not tempered properly, it could easily collapse. Even if Zhuowen practiced the jade body tempering technique, he did not dare to use a barbaric energy like the earth fire to temper his body. This was because the earth fire was too destructive. Even with Zhuowen's current body, it was difficult for him to withstand the destructive power of the earth fire. However, the flames in the refined crystal jades did not have this concern at all. These flames had the scorching heat of the earth fire but did not have the destructive power of the earth fire. Instead, they were very gentle and were the most suitable for tempering the body. The effect of one refined crystal jades is not that obvious. It seems that I need to add another one. Although the surrounding flames were extremely hot, Zhuowen, who had used the jade body tempering technique, did not feel much. Therefore, he took out another refined crystal jades from his qiankuan bag. Sizzle. All of a sudden, the originally inconspicuous flame suddenly became several times more vigorous, and the temperature in the room also rose to an extremely exaggerated level. It was as if the room Zhuowen was in had become a furnace for alchemy. As he felt the surrounding temperature increase once again, Zhuowen nodded his head in satisfaction. Soon after, he closed his eyes and began to silently circulate the jade stone body tempering skill under this high temperature, using the surrounding high temperature to continuously temper his body. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, 2 days had passed. During these 2 days, many things had happened. Since the house of Marquis Qin successfully seized the treasure island 2 days ago and broke through the void to enter the second layer, the remaining 4 super forces did not want to be outdone and succeeded in seizing the islands one after another. Ranked from 2nd to 5th were Jade Lady Starcourt, Marquis Baichuan, Marquis Yongsheng, and Imperial Sword Sect. In addition to these 4 super forces, some of the more powerful super cities had also entered the second layer within 2 days. In these 2 days, nearly 100 islands had successfully ascended. A huge and vast oasis slowly emerged in the distance. That oasis was the sacred realm of the lost race. In the center of the sacred realm, a sacred city stood alone like a coiling dragon. It looked proud, aloof, and had experienced the vicissitudes of life. Whoosh! A green airship flashed across the sky and headed straight for the sacred realm. On the deck of the green airship, Gu Xian, Hu Wuying, and Priestess Qiushui looked at the oasis in the distance with joyful smiles on their faces. Chapter 376. Encounter. As they approached the sacred region, Priest Qiushui's beautiful eyes flashed as she said, "The sacred region is shrouded in a force that restricts flight, so we can't directly enter by flying boat. We have to get off the boat." Gu Xian and Hu Wuying were a little surprised, but they didn't ask any questions. "Wuying, you control the airship to land. I'll call Brother Zhua." Gu Xian instructed Hu Wuying and entered the airship's cabin. He quickly found Zhuowen's room. What surprised Gu Xian was that when he approached Zhuowen's room, he could faintly feel a trace of heat. The closer he got to Zhuowen's room, the more intense it became. When he arrived at the door of Zhuowen's room, the blazing aura had almost reached its peak. The scorching heat even caused Gu Xian's breathing to quicken, and the skin on the surface of his skin began to curl up. This somewhat oppressive feeling immediately caused Gu Xian to be extremely shocked. What is Zhuowen doing in his room? Why is it emitting such a high temperature? I can't stand it even if I'm outside the room. Gu Xian's face was solemn as he thought to himself. Dong! Dong! Someone knocked on the door. Enduring the high temperature, Gu Xian said in a deep voice, "Brother Zhua. We've arrived at the sanctuary. We should get off the airship." After a while, a clear voice sounded in the room. "Okay. Got it. I'll go to the deck immediately." Hearing the voice in the room, Gu Xian heaved a sigh of relief. The sudden high temperature in Zhuowen's room really scared Gu Xian. He thought something bad had happened to Zhuowen. Now that he heard Zhuowen's voice, he relaxed. At the same time, a sliver of shock flashed through Gu Xian's heart. The scorching aura he sensed clearly came from Zhuowen's room. Even when he was outside the room, he felt his chest tighten and his breathing become ragged, let alone the temperature in the room. It was definitely much hotter than outside. Zhuowen's voice was full of energy just now. It was clear that he wasn't affected by the heat at all. This made Gu Xian respect Zhuowen even more. At the same time, he felt even more complicated. The young man who was weaker than him in the past had now left him far behind. Looking at the room with a complicated look, Gu Xian quickly left the inner cabin and returned to the deck. At this moment, the room was already filled with a rich fiery red color. It was clusters of flames that were constantly burning, almost covering the entire room. On the bed near the corner of the room, a topless young man slowly opened his eyes. The young man's naked upper body had a jade-like luster. The surrounding blazing flames didn't have the slightest effect on him. Instead, the young man twisted his neck as if nothing had happened and stood up. 2 days is really too short. Even if I use 3 quenching crystal jades to release the quenching fire at the same time to temper my body, I still haven't reached the 7th level of the jade body tempering technique! Reaching out his right hand, Zhuowen gently squeezed it. The surrounding flames immediately gathered in his hand and condensed into 3 flame-shaped quenching crystal jades in his palm. However, the color of these 3 quenching crystal jades had become rather dim. Obviously, Zhuowen's continuous use over the past 2 days had caused the flame energy within the quenching crystal jades to become thinner and thinner. Although you haven't successfully entered the 7th level of the jade body tempering technique, your current physical strength has increased by about 30%. I'm afraid you're not far from the 7th level of the jade body tempering technique. Now, even if you meet Lu Yuanhua again, you won't be suppressed by him even if you don't rely on the fire and ice lotus. Xiao Hei's voice slowly sounded in Yan Liqiang's mind. Lu Yuanhua has only just advanced to the ultimate emperor realm after all. His strength can't be considered strong. It's just that Lu Yongsheng is quite troublesome. If we meet again in the Origin Qi Tower, I'm afraid that guy will really kill me. Narrowing his eyes, a trace of coldness flashed across Zhuowen's face. Last time in the mortal stage loft, Lu Yongsheng had almost killed him. If it weren't for Qiu Chou and Miss Qing Lian, Zhuowen might have really died on the spot. Lu Yongsheng is an ultimate emperor realm expert and a genius on the Azure Emperor rankings. I'm afraid that even if you cultivate the jade body tempering technique to the 7th level, you still won't be a match for Lu Yongsheng. If you meet him, you'll really be in trouble. Xiao Hei suddenly gloated. It's not that early to meet Lu Yongsheng. After all, the first 3 levels of the Origin Qi Tower are for the power rankings. The 4th level is for the individual rankings. If Lu Yongsheng wants to make a move, he'll probably wait until I enter the 4th level. Zhuowen said with a sinister gaze. Hee. With that guy's arrogant personality, I'm afraid he won't think that you have the qualifications to enter the 4th level. Of course, he won't let you go just like that. Perhaps after the battle for the Origin Qi Tower ends, Lu Yongsheng will find trouble with you. Even Rattan Armor City and the Zhuo family might be implicated. Xiao Hei added fuel to the fire, wishing for the world to be in chaos. Zhuowen's expression was extremely calm as he said, "Don't worry. I'm still confident that I can enter the 4th level. Moreover, the Origin Qi in the Origin Qi Tower is so rich that it gives me a chance. As long as I advance to the ultimate emperor realm, coupled with the power of the jade body tempering technique and the 2 saint talismans, even if I can't defeat Lu Yongsheng, it's still possible for me to survive." Alright. Right now, I'm not thinking about Lu Yongsheng, but how to seize control of the Sandstone Island. Since we've arrived at the sacred region, I won't hand over control of the Sandstone Island. Whoosh! As he spoke, Zhuowen put on his clothes and walked out of the room to the deck. At this moment, Gu Xian and the other 2 on the deck also noticed Zhuowen. They nodded slightly at him and tried their best to control the Qing fan boat to land slowly. After nodding, Zhuowen looked through the deck and saw the huge oasis in the distance, as well as the huge city that looked like a coiling dragon in the middle of the oasis. Is that the holy city? It's really huge. Looking at the holy city in front of him, Zhuowen couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. The holy city's scale was much larger than Broken Rock City. Perhaps only a province could compare to it. Boom! At the same time, the Qing fan boat slowly descended from the sky and finally stopped at the edge of the sacred region. Then, the 4 of them walked down the Qing fan boat and looked at the lush green oasis in front of them. The three of you, this is the edge of the sacred region. It's only about half a day's journey to the holy city in the center. We only need to walk there. After getting off the boat, Priest Choshue said with a smile. Gu Xian and Hu Wuying looked at Zhuoan with excitement in their eyes. They knew that the control center of the Sandstone Island was in the holy city. This time, the teams entering the holy city would not only be limited to Rattan Armor City. When the time came, it would definitely be a fierce battle. Even Zhuoan's eyes were filled with hope. Let's go. I hope that we're not too late. As he spoke, Zhuoan took the lead and entered the sacred region. Gu Xian and the other two followed closely behind. The sacred region was indeed the core of the Sandstone Island. Not long after entering the sacred region, Zhuoan's group of 4 met many vestigial clan members. These vestigial clan members were all talking and laughing. Moreover, their strength was not ordinary. Clearly, they were all preparing to enter the holy city. After walking for a few hours, the mundane rank token on Zhuoan's waist suddenly lit up. Zhuoan couldn't help but stop and frown as he looked at the mundane rank token on his waist. What's wrong? Gu Xian and the other two asked curiously when they saw Zhuoan stop. The mundane rank token's reaction is quite intense. I'm afraid that there are teams from other cities nearby. Zhuoan narrowed his eyes and said in a low voice. Hearing this, Priest Choshue was a little confused. However, Gu Xian and Hu Wuying's expressions changed drastically when they saw the abnormality of the token on Zhuoan's waist. They didn't expect to encounter teams from other cities as soon as they entered the sacred region. Teams from other cities participating in the Vitality Tower battle had their own identity token. This identity token not only indicated the identity of a team from a city, but also could detect the presence of teams from other cities within a certain range. If a team from another city was within the detection range of the identity token would light up. This was why Zhuoan and the other two's expressions were so solemn when they saw the identity token light up. I wonder what level the teams from the nearby cities are. Don't tell me we'll encounter a team from a high-level city right from the start. Gu Xian said rather gloomily. We shouldn't be that unlucky, right? Hu Wuying said somewhat nervously. After all, the two of them were born in a low-level city like Rattan Armor City. In their eyes, high-level cities were all high and mighty existences. Even if they knew that there was a powerhouse like Zhuoan by their side, there was always a trace of uncertainty in their hearts. Priest Choshue. We still have some things to take care of. You should enter the sacred city first. It might be very dangerous later. If you get dragged into it, we'll be a little apologetic. Zhuoan suddenly turned his head and said seriously to Priest Choshue. Zhuoan knew that if they met the teams from the unknown cities, a big battle would be unavoidable. If it was a low-level or mid-level city, Zhuoan wouldn't care so much. However, if it was a high-level city, then it would be a little troublesome. At that time, even Zhuoan would find it difficult to take care of Priest Choshue. Priest Choshue was startled when she heard this. However, after seeing the dignified expression on Zhuoan's face, she hesitated for a moment. In the end, she nodded and said, if that's the case, then I'll go to the sacred city first. I'll wait for you there. Priest Choshue was a beautiful and intelligent woman. She was very clear about Zhuoan's strength. If he could make the former reveal a dignified expression, then it was likely that they would encounter big trouble ahead. She knew that with her meager strength, she would undoubtedly become a burden to Zhuoan. Therefore, she simply agreed to Zhuoan's suggestion. Looking at Priest Choshue's gradually disappearing figure, Zhuoan also breathed a sigh of relief. Letting Priest Choshue go first was undoubtedly the best choice at this time. Whoosh! At the same time, the token on Zhuoan's waist became even brighter. The light it emitted became particularly dazzling. The other party has also discovered us. Now they're rushing towards us. It seems that we have to prepare for battle. Chapter 377. Devil Iron City. Rustle, rustle, rustle. Soft rustling sounds suddenly rang out in the dense forest. Zhuowen and the other two immediately focused their gazes on the source of the sound. They saw 5 figures slowly walking out from the corner a few dozen meters in front of them. There were 3 men and 2 women among the 5. The leader was a young woman around the age of 20. She was beautiful and had a graceful figure. She wore a tight black dress that outlined her beautiful figure. What was even more rare was that her skin was extremely white, like snow. The other 4 people all followed this woman's lead. It was obvious that this woman was the leader of this team. Walking out of the dense forest, the 5 people's gazes gathered on Zhuowen and the other 2. Especially after seeing the word, mortal, on the token on Zhuowen's waist that was still shining. More or less, a trace of contempt and disdain appeared in their eyes. The mortal rank token was the lowest level token, representing a low-level city. The token on the waist of the leading woman was a mortal rank token. Obviously, these 5 people were a team from an intermediate city. Naturally, the 5 of them were filled with a sense of superiority towards a low-level city that was 1 level lower than them. What a bummer. It's actually a low-level city again. Why didn't we meet other intermediate cities? Another woman in the team glanced at the token on Zhuowen's waist and curled her lips in displeasure. This woman was younger than the leading woman. There was a trace of immaturity on her pretty face. Moreover, her face was somewhat similar to the other woman's. Obviously, the 2 women were related by blood. Second sister, don't talk so much. The situation is critical now. 1 more person means 1 more force. The leading woman helplessly glared at the complaining woman. Soon after, she came in front of Zhuowen and the other 2 and said with a faint smile, "The 3 of you, we are from Devil Iron City, an intermediate city. You don't have to be nervous. The 5 of us are not here to fight with you. My name is Zhang Xinya. The one who spoke just now is my younger sister, Zhang Huiya. She is young and speaks without thinking. I hope the 3 of you don't take it to heart." When Zhuowen and the other 2 heard this, they couldn't help but look at each other. The woman in front of them was so polite. Obviously, she didn't have any hostility towards them. However, what surprised them was that Zhang Xinya was still so polite even though she knew that they were from a low-level city. This made the 3 of them a little confused. My name is Zhuowen. I am from Rattan Armor City, a low-level city. These 2 are my companions, Gu Xian and Hu Wuying. Although Zhuowen was a little puzzled as to why this lady called Zhang Xinya was so polite to them, he still replied politely. As he spoke, Zhuowen narrowed his eyes. Of Zhuowen and... Why didn't your Devil Iron City directly enter the Holy City? Why are you wandering outside the Holy City? If I'm not wrong, you're deliberately trying to get close to our team. Zhang Xinya was stunned when she heard this. She didn't expect the ordinary young man in front of her to be so meticulous. She also noticed that Gu Xian and Hu Wuying were deliberately standing behind the youngest young man in front of her. Obviously, they faintly followed the young man's lead. This young man seems to be a little complicated. Zhang Xinya thought. However, that was all there was to it. After all, Zhuowen's group of 3 had only come from a low-level city. Although Zhuowen, the youngest among them, was not an ordinary person, Zhang Xinya did not think much of him. After all, there was a huge difference between a low-level city and an intermediate city. Hearing this, Zhang Xinya was quite surprised. It seems that the 3 of you really don't know anything. Know what? When Zhuowen heard this, he faintly felt that something was wrong and quickly asked. You really don't know anything. Coming from a low-level city, you are really the most useless. You don't know anything. Let me tell you, if you continue to move forward, I'm afraid you won't even be able to keep your lives. The younger Zhang Huiya sneered. Zhang Huiya's sneer made Zhuowen frown slightly, but he didn't bother to pay attention to this snobbish woman. He just silently waited for her to continue. The 5 people from Devil Iron City should have reached the holy region earlier than them. Logically speaking, they should have entered the holy city by now. However, they were now wandering outside the holy city. It was obvious that they had encountered something that prevented them from entering the holy city. Zhuowen could ignore Zhang Huiya's sarcasm, but it didn't mean that Gu Xian and Hu Wuying beside him didn't care. Gu Xian and Hu Wuying immediately glared at Zhang Huiya and said, "You'd better watch your mouth." Yo! You're not convinced? You 3 trash from a low-level city want to be on equal footing with us from a middle-level city? Don't you know what kind of trash you are? I only need one hand to knock the 3 of you down. The sarcasm on Zhang Huiya's pretty face grew stronger as she spoke unscrupulously. Creak. Gu Xian and Hu Wuying clenched their fists so tightly that cracking sounds could be heard. They gritted their teeth and glared at Zhang Huiya. Just as they were about to attack, they were stopped by Zhuowen. Don't be impulsive. We still haven't figured out what's going on, Zhuowen said indifferently. However, his eyes were filled with a chilling intent. Hearing this, Gu Xian and Hu Wuying also calmed down. They snorted coldly and retreated behind Zhuowen, ignoring the sneering Zhang Huiya. Your captain is sensible. If you had attacked just now, I'm afraid you would have lost your lives, Zhang Huiya sneered. Her pretty face could not help but reveal a smug look. Just when she was about to mock again, she was directly interrupted by Zhuowen. That's enough. If you're done, tell me what happened. Zhuowen said coldly as he stared coldly at the unscrupulous Zhang Huiya. Suddenly interrupted by Zhuowen, Zhang Huiya could not help but be stunned. The smug look on her face suddenly turned gloomy. She pointed at Zhuowen and said, "Who do you think you are? How dare you point your finger at me? Did I allow you to speak? Do you believe that I won't tear your mouth apart?" Hearing Zhang Huiya's unruly words, Zhuowen finally became a little impatient. The original coldness in his eyes had been replaced by killing intent. The 5 people in front of him were only a team from an intermediate city. The strongest, Zhang Xinya, was only at the advanced Heavenly King stage. The younger Zhang Huiya was at the initial Heavenly King stage. The remaining 3 were only at the Earth King stage. With Zhuowen's strength, he could definitely kill the 5 of them in an instant. The moment Zhang Huiya met Zhuowen's murderous eyes, her face suddenly stiffened. Her pretty face became extremely pale, and she swallowed the words that she wanted to say. Zhang Xinya, who had fallen silent, felt Zhuowen's murderous intent, and her heart skipped a beat. She quickly changed the topic and said, "Actually, it's like this. Within a few hundred meters of the holy city, there are 2 teams from high-grade cities guarding it. They are waiting for the opportunity to annihilate the other low-grade and middle-grade cities. If we go there rashly, I'm afraid that we will be defeated one by one. Therefore, the reason why we are loitering here is to gather enough teams to fight against the 2 teams from advanced cities outside the city. This is also the reason why we took the initiative to approach the other teams when we found that they were approaching. After all, there is strength in numbers. Although we are only from intermediate and low cities, if we have enough people, we are not afraid of those advanced cities. Therefore, I hope that you can join us. This way, the chances of entering the holy city will be higher." Upon hearing this, Zhuowen was a little surprised. He did not expect that there would be 2 teams from high-grade cities waiting outside the holy city. Obviously, the high-grade cities that had entered the holy city did not want the other middle-grade and low-grade cities to take advantage of the situation. After eliminating the weaker teams from the middle-grade and low-grade cities, only the high-grade cities would be left to compete with each other. Zhang Xinya looked at Zhuowen with some expectation. After Zhuowen released his murderous intent, she faintly felt that the young man in front of her was definitely not weak. At the same time, she was a little surprised that he could release such a murderous intent. How many people had he killed to have such a strong murderous intent? Zhuowen didn't rush to agree. Instead, he pondered for a while and said, "How many teams have you gathered?" Also, who are the 2 teams from advanced cities outside the Holy City? We've already gathered 4 teams from low-level cities. Including you guys, we'll have 5 teams. There are 2 teams from intermediate cities. One is from our Devil Iron City, and the other is from Gangshan City. Gangshan City is stronger than our Devil Iron City. The 2 teams from advanced cities outside the Holy City are Azure Dragon City and Jiayu City. These 2 teams are relatively weak. Zhang Xinya didn't hide anything. Brother Gu, Brother Hu, what do you 2 think? Zhuowen asked the 2 behind him with a smile. Brother Zhua, you are our team leader. You make the decision. Gu Xian and Hu Wuying shook their heads. Then we will also join you. After pondering for a while, Zhuowen said with a smile. At this time, Zhuowen didn't want to expose his strength too much. Naturally, Zhuowen wasn't afraid of Azure Dragon City and Jiayu City. However, he was a little afraid of Thunder Universe City and Nine Dragon City. These 2 teams from advanced cities were indeed strong. Even at this time, Zhuowen didn't have the slightest chance of winning against these 2 teams. If he exposed his strength too early, Nine Dragon City and Thunder Universe City might join forces to get rid of him first. At that time, it would be really not worth the loss. Seeing Zhuowen agree, Zhang Xinya's pretty face suddenly showed a trace of joy. Although Zhuowen only came from a low cities, she felt that this young man in front of her wasn't simple. Perhaps he could be of help to their alliance this time. Now that we are considered to be in the same camp, I will now take the 3 of you to join the other teams. At that time, we can go to the Holy City together. Chapter 378. Arrangements. Swoosh. 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 Black figures shuttled through the dense forest, causing the birds in the forest to fly into the sky. The crisp chirps of the birds converged into a pleasant melody. Not long after, the figures shuttling through the forest stopped in a rather wide open space. At this time, there were already many people gathered in the open space. These people had obviously heard the wind in the forest, and all of them looked at the forest with vigilance. However, when these people saw a group of people rushing over from the forest, the cautious expression on their faces slowly disappeared. There were even some people who laughed and said, "The 5 from the Devil Iron City have all returned. It seems that they have even brought along new companions." Amidst the teasing of some people in the open space, Zhang Xinya, Zhang Huiya, and the other 4 from Devil Iron City appeared in the open space with Zhuowen and the other 2. Zhuowen. These people on the open space were gathered by us. Among them, there are 4 teams from low-grade cities. The 6 people in the middle of the open space are from another middle-grade city, Gang City. Gang City is slightly stronger than Devil Iron City, and they are the main force to break through into the Holy City this time. Before arriving at the open space, Zhang Xinya introduced the few teams on the open space to Zhuowen in detail. When she introduced Gang City, a hint of fear appeared on Zhang Xinya's pretty face. Zhang Huiya, who had a somewhat unruly personality, recovered from the shock at this time and could not help but snort coldly. "It's no different from not having a low-grade city like your Vine Armor City. The main force is still our Devil Iron City and Gang City. When the time comes, you only need to put in a little effort. You're really lucky this time." Completely ignoring Zhang Huiya, Zhuowen's gaze landed on the 6 people in the middle of the open space, especially the young man in yellow who was leading the 6. Zhang Xinya had already introduced him to Zhuowen on the way here. This young man in yellow was the captain of Gang City, and his name was Zheng Yi. His strength had reached the complete Heavenly King stage. With the foundation of a middle-grade city, being able to cultivate to the complete Heavenly King stage meant that Zheng Yi was quite talented. When Zheng Yi saw Zhang Xinya and the others, a smile appeared on his handsome face. He slowly walked towards Zhang Xinya, ignoring Zhuowen and the others beside Zhang Xinya. Instead, he fixed his gaze on Zhang Xinya and said with a smile, "Xinya. This time, we only need the cooperation of Devil Iron City and Gang City to enter the Holy City. It's too superfluous to find trash from a low-grade city. From the beginning to the end, Zheng Yi did not take Zhuowen and the others seriously. After all, Zhuowen and the others were from a low-grade city. To him, having them was as good as not having them. They would not be of much use. Zhang Xinya couldn't help but frown when she sensed Zheng Yi's burning gaze. She said coldly, "Xinya knows that young Master Zheng is very strong, but we're facing two high-rank cities. Even if Azure Dragon City and Jiayu City don't have any half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm experts, they have a lot more Heavenly King Realm cultivators than we do. That's not something our two mid-rank cities can withstand." Zheng Yi did not mind Zhang Xinya's cold attitude at all. He smiled and said, "I was just joking. These three should be the team you just brought back, right?" As he spoke, Zheng Yi's gaze landed on Zhuowen and the others. He said indifferently, "I am Zheng Yi from Gang City. May I know who you are?" Seeing Zheng Yi's perfunctory attitude, Zhuowen could not be bothered with this guy who was bursting with a sense of superiority. He only replied indifferently, "Rot 10 Armor City is only a low-grade city." After he finished speaking, he walked past Zheng Yi with Gu Xian and Hu Wuying. He casually chose an empty space and sat down cross-legged on the ground. Zheng Yi's eyes narrowed slightly when he saw Zhuo Wen's group of three walk past him. These lowly commoners from three low-level cities actually didn't give him any face. This made Zheng Yi feel rather displeased, and he looked at the backs of Zhuo Wen's group with a cold gaze. "Young Master Zheng. If there's nothing else, I'll go and arrange the team first." Zhang Xinya did not have a good impression of Zheng Yi. She said indifferently and walked past him. She arranged the team in the center of the empty space and prepared to go to the Holy City. Zheng Yi's face became even uglier. A trace of anger suddenly appeared on his face. He snorted in a low voice, "Zhang Xinya. There's no woman that I, Zheng Yi, can't get my hands on." As he spoke, Zheng Yi's gaze once again converged on Zhuo Wen and the other two people in a remote corner of the open space. The corners of his mouth revealed a trace of a sinister smile as he thought to himself, "The lowly people of these three low-level cities have quite a temper. However, these kinds of people usually die the fastest." Dang! The sound of footsteps approaching suddenly interrupted Zheng Yi's thoughts. He slowly raised his head and saw Zhang Huiya standing in front of him. She whispered softly, "Young Master Zheng, are you interested in cooperating with me?" Zheng Yi looked at Zhang Huiya in surprise. He did not expect Zhang Huiya, who had always kept a respectful distance from him, to take the initiative to approach him. Looking at Zhang Huiya's delicate face and delicate body, Zheng Yi's eyes flashed with an undetectable strangeness. "Oh. Cooperation? Sister Huiya, why do you want to cooperate with me?" Zheng Yi grinned. "Young Master Zheng, you must have seen the arrogant attitude of the three from Rattan Armor City. These lowly people from low-grade cities are very lucky to join our team. They have the opportunity to break through the defenses of Green Dragon City and Jiayu City and enter the Holy City." However, the three of them did not appreciate it at all. Their attitude was even more arrogant. "If we don't teach them a lesson, they won't know the power of our middle-grade cities." Zhang Huiya sneered. Zheng Yi was stunned. He did not expect Zhang Huiya to cooperate with him because of Zhuowen and the others. Looking at Zhang Huiya's expression, Zheng Yi guessed that the three of them must have offended the unruly Zhang Huiya in front of him. Otherwise, Zhang Huiya would not have come to him personally. The three of them are really arrogant. They are just lowly people from low-grade cities. How dare they be so arrogant? I don't like it. However, there will be plenty of opportunities to teach them a lesson. When the time comes to fight with Green Dragon City and Jiayu City, we only need to do a little trick to make the three of them disappear from this world completely." Zheng Yi smiled coldly with a hint of killing intent in his eyes. Zhang Huiya couldn't help but be shocked when she heard this. Initially, she only wanted to work with Zheng Yi to teach Zhuo Wen and the other two a lesson. However, she didn't expect Zheng Yi to be so ruthless as to directly kill the three of them. Zhang Huiya looked at Zheng Yi in front of her with fear. This person was so ruthless. No wonder her sister told her not to get close to Zheng Yi. As if seeing the fear on Zhang Huiya's face, Zheng Yi grinned and said jokingly, "What's wrong? Sister Huiya, you can't do it. Or you don't have the courage to do it." "Nonsense. I also want to kill Zhuowen and the others. How can I not have the courage to do it?" Zhang Huiya quickly retorted with a flushed face after being provoked by Zheng Yi. "If that's the case, then that's for the best." Zheng Yi looked deeply at Zhang Huiya. After discussing some details with her, the two of them parted ways and returned to their respective teams as if nothing had happened. In a corner of the open space, Zhuowen noticed Zhang Huiya and Zheng Yi whispering not far away. He could not help but squint his eyes. No one knew what he was thinking. Not long after, Zhang Xinya arranged the other teams in the open space and said loudly, "Everyone knows that the only way to enter the Holy City has been blocked by the Azure Dragon City and Jiayu City, two high-grade cities. Fortunately, the strength of these two cities is not high, and they don't have any half-step Ultimate Emperor realm experts. So, we only need to work together to break through the defenses of Green Dragon City and Jiayu City and enter the Holy City." As soon as Zhang Xinya spoke, the other teams in the open space became restless. However, they quickly calmed down. This Zhang Xinya was quite capable. The teams from the other low-level cities in the open space were quite convinced by Zhang Xinya. No one spoke out against her. The captains of Green Dragon City and Jiayu City are only at the perfect Heavenly King stage. Everyone knows that young Master Zheng Yi from Gangshan City is also at the perfect Heavenly King stage. When the time comes, young Master Zheng will restrain one of the captains, and my sister Zhang Huiya and I will work together to restrain the other captain. As for the other teams from Green Dragon City and Jiayu City, you will need to work together to deal with them. Although we are not as strong as Green Dragon City and Jiayu City, we have a lot more people. The difference in strength can be made up with numbers. We have a high chance of winning this battle." Zhang Xinya's tone was extremely calm from beginning to end. Her watery eyes swept across the open space as she continued, "If no one has any objections, then let's set off now." After Zhang Xinya finished speaking, the other warriors in the open space stood up one after another. They lined up neatly in the center of the open space and looked at Zhang Xinya with reverence in their eyes. After all, Zhang Xinya was beautiful and strong. These warriors of the low-level cities were willing to listen to Zhang Xinya's orders. Zheng Yi, who was standing on the side, was slightly displeased. He was the strongest in the team, and had already reached the perfect Heavenly King stage. However, the cultivators from the lower cities only kept a respectful distance from him. On the other hand, Zhang Xinya, who was slightly weaker than him, had a much higher prestige than him. "Since everyone agrees, let's set off now." Zhang Xinya nodded in satisfaction and nodded to Zheng Yi. Then, she led the team towards the holy city. Zheng Yi smiled coldly and followed closely behind. Zhuowen and the other two, who were originally sitting in the corner of the open space, didn't say anything. They just followed silently at the back of the team, appearing extremely inconspicuous. However, Zhuowen secretly transmitted his voice to Gu Xian and Hu Wuying beside him, "When we fight Green Dragon City and Jiayu City later, try to preserve your strength as much as possible. Zhang Huiya and Zheng Yi are probably up to no good." Chapter 379. Azure Wyrm City and Jiayu City. As usual, the holy city was bustling with people coming and going. There were always many powerful warriors going in and out of the huge city gate. In a dense forest several hundred meters away from the holy city, two teams sat lazily in an empty space. They seemed to be discussing something. These two teams were guarding the two high-grade cities, Azure Dragon City and Jiayu City, outside the holy city. There were not many people in the two teams, and there were only 16 people in total. The strongest people in the two teams were the captains of the two teams, and their strength was at the Great Circle of the Heavenly King stage. The captain of Azure Wyrm City was called Fan Shi. When Zhuoan and the others had arrived at the provincial capital, they had come into contact with the Azure Wyrm City team. Naturally, they could recognize Fan Shi's appearance. He was only at the Great Circle of the Heavenly King stage. The captain of Jiayu City was called Qin Fu. He was a young man with brown hair and a resolute expression. Chen Fu's strength was similar to Fan Shi's, both at the Great Circle of the Heavenly King stage. How unlucky! We just had to be assigned to the same island as Nine Dragon City and Thunder Universe City. With the strength of our two teams, it's simply impossible for us to be a match for Nine Dragon City and Thunder Universe City. Fan Shi crossed his arms and leaned against a tree trunk as he complained. Nine Dragon City and Thunder Universe City both have 3 half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators. Nine Dragon City is the most terrifying of them all. It's said that their captain, Feng Long, can break through to the Ultimate Emperor Realm at any time. It's just that he's been suppressing his cultivation to the half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm. With Feng Long's strength, ordinary half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators are no match for him. Trying to compete with these two teams for the island is simply courting death, Qin Fu sneered. Both Azure Wyrm City and Jiayu City knew their limits. They knew that with the two powerful teams, Nine Dragon City and Thunder Universe City, their chances of seizing control of the island were close to 0. As a result, they didn't plan on entering the Holy City. However, Green Dragon City and Jiayu City were extremely unwilling to leave the tower empty-handed. Therefore, the two teams turned their attention to the remaining teams from the intermediate and low-level cities. Although the resources of the middle and low-level cities were far inferior to those of the high-level cities, the geniuses that were sent out this time were the geniuses of the cities. Moreover, the Qiankuan bags of these geniuses often contained valuable items. Therefore, the Azure Dragon City and Jiayu City planned to make a good profit before leaving the Origin Qi Tower and snatch the Qiankuan bags from the geniuses of the middle and low-level cities. Fan Shi gave a cold snort and said, "Humph. Naturally, I know that. This is also the reason why I didn't enter the Holy City and directly face the two teams from Nine Dragon City and Thunder Universe City." When Qin Fu heard this, he was about to say something sarcastic again when suddenly, a black shadow rushed towards Qin Fu from the depths of the forest. In the blink of an eye, it was only an inch away from Qin Fu's forehead. Clang! Qin Fu's eyes narrowed. His right hand formed a sword and pinched upwards, instantly catching the black shadow. When he focused his eyes, he discovered that the black shadow in his hand was actually a steel needle. Fan Shi. It seems that those lowly people from the middle and low-level cities can't hold back anymore. Get ready for battle. Qin Fu said coldly as he flicked the steel needle between his fingers and shot it at a tree trunk. This is good too. It saves us the trouble of looking for these guys. Fan Shi licked his lips and said excitedly. In just a moment, the members of the two teams on the open ground took out their respective weapons and looked at the depths of the forest with vigilance. Whoosh! 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 Fan Shi and Qin Fu didn't have to wait for too long. They saw a group of people slowly walking out from the depths of the forest. At a glance, there were about 40 to 50 people, and the leaders were Zhang Xinya and Zheng Yi. With so many people appearing all of a sudden, Fan Shi and Chen Sheng's expressions changed slightly. They didn't expect that the teams from the middle and low-level cities would actually start to form an alliance. Pretty smart. You actually managed to form an alliance with the other low-level cities. However, to us, the teams from the low-level cities are just a motley crew. What's the use even if you gather more people? You're just a group of cannon fodders sent to die. Qin Fu recovered from his shock and said indifferently. Ants can kill an elephant with enough strength. No matter how weak the strength is, as long as they gather together, they can still display a powerful strength. Chen Fu, so what if you're from a high-level city? Do you think you'll definitely win against us? Zhang Xinya said coldly. It's not that we'll definitely win, but you'll definitely die. All of you, go to hell. Fan Shi, there's no need to hold back. Kill all of these guys. When the time comes, we'll split the Qiankun bag. As he spoke, Chen Fu took the lead and pulled out a blood-red broadsword from his Qiankun bag. He stomped his feet on the ground and his whole body flew directly toward Zhang Xinya. I don't need you to tell me. Fan Shi grinned and also pulled out a weapon from his Qiankun bag. It was a huge meteor hammer. Not to be outdone, he followed behind Chen Fu and rushed toward Zhang Xinya's group. Zhang Xinya and Zheng Yi also didn't expect that Chen Fu and Fan Shi would actually directly attack as soon as they arrived. Their faces couldn't help but change. Young Master Zheng, I'll leave Fan Shi to you. Huiya and I will deal with Chen Fu. Zhang Xinya gritted her teeth and hurriedly instructed Zheng Yi. Then, she led Zhang Huiya to fight against Chen Fu. Zheng Yi nodded slightly and directly rushed toward Fan Shi. Boom! In just an instant, the battle was on the verge of breaking out. The team led by Fan Shi and Chen Fu clashed with the team led by Zhang Xinya in the blink of an eye. For a moment, the sound of clashing metal resounded throughout the dense forest. The ear-piercing sound of metal clashing filled the entire open space, crisp and clear. You guys overestimate yourselves. Die! Looking at Zhang Xinya and Zhang Huiya who were rushing toward him, Chen Fu revealed a sinister smile. He clenched his right hand and the huge blood-red broadsword with a pungent smell slashed toward Zhang Xinya's neck. Chen Fu could tell at a glance that Zhang Xinya and Zhang Huiya were weaker than him. One was at the advanced Heavenly King stage, while the other was only at the initial Heavenly King stage. Such strength posed no threat to him at all. Therefore, he was very confident that this attack would definitely be able to kill the two sisters in front of him. Facing the huge blood-red broadsword that was slashing toward them, Zhang Xinya and Zhang Huiya were not flustered at all. Both of them took out similar blue long swords from their cosmos bags. Then, both of them held the long swords in their left and right hands and shouted in unison, left and right combination. As soon as the shout came out, the auras of the two women suddenly rose, and they actually rose to a level comparable to the peak of the Heavenly King stage. Boom! The two blue longswords struck out at the same time and directly struck the blood-red broadsword that was rushing toward them. Unexpectedly, the powerful blood-red broadsword was directly sent flying. Chen Fu's pupils shrank. He didn't expect the two ladies' auras to suddenly rise to the level of complete Heavenly King stage. Taking a step in the void, Chen Fu easily caught the blood-red broadsword and said with a frown, after the two of them joined forces, their strength actually rose to the level of complete Heavenly King stage. What kind of secret technique is this? This secret technique is called left and right combination. It can forcibly gather the origin energy of two people at one point, greatly increasing their combined strength. Although one of us is at the advanced Heavenly King stage, and the other is at the initial Heavenly King stage, under the enhancement of this secret technique, our strength is no weaker than yours at all. I'm afraid you can't defeat us right now. Under the effect of the left and right combination secret technique, Zhang Xinya and Zhang Huiya spoke in the same way as if they were the same person speaking. Can't do it. You think too highly of yourselves. A secret technique is a secret technique after all. There must be a time limit. I can buy time. When the secret technique's time is up, let's see if you're still a match for me. Watch out for my broadsword. Chen Fu's eyes were cold, and the corner of his mouth revealed a sinister smile. After saying this, he directly raised the blood-red broadsword and began to fight with the two sisters again. He intended to buy time with the two sisters. When the effect of the left and right combination secret technique was over, the two sisters' alliance would collapse. Zhang Xinya and Zhang Huiya's expressions changed slightly when they heard this. Obviously, Chen Fu was right about the flaw of the left and right combination secret technique. This secret technique indeed had a time limit. Once the time limit was up, the secret technique would automatically disappear, and the two sisters would fall into a weakened state for a period of time. Second sister. We have to go all out in this battle. Otherwise, we'll all die here, Zhang Xinya said to Zhang Huiya, who was beside her cautiously. Zhang Huiya nodded, understanding the seriousness of the matter. Immediately after, the two sisters pounced on Chen Fu again, their attacks becoming sharper and fiercer. Zhuowen, who was mixed in the team, also saw the left and right combination secret technique used by Zhang Xinya and Zhang Huiya. His eyes suddenly burst with a glimmer of light. This kind of secret technique was extremely rare. Even Zhuowen began to feel a little tempted. This kind of secret technique that required the cooperation of two people was not very useful to Zhuowen, but it was extremely useful to Gu Xian and Hu Wuying, who were weaker. After all, the battle for the Vitality Tower was not a one-person battle, but a battle between teams. With Zhuowen's current strength and promotion speed, the gap between Gu Xian and Hu Wuying would definitely widen. Moreover, the opponents he would have to face would also become stronger. Therefore, Gu Xian and Hu Wuying were destined to be a burden to Zhuowen. However, with this secret technique, the gap between Gu Xian and Hu Wuying and Zhuowen would not be so obvious. If there's a chance, it's best to exchange for this secret technique from Zhang Xinya. This secret technique is really useful to Gu Xian and Hu Wuying. Zhuowen dealt with the opponents in front of him somewhat perfunctorily, secretly calculating in his heart. What Zhuowen did not notice was that on the other side, Zheng Yi, who was fighting with Fan Shi, glanced at Zhuowen's location from the corner of his eyes. And whether it was intentional or not, Zheng Yi seemed to be deliberately leading Fan Shi to Zhuowen's direction. Glancing sideways at Zhuowen, who was tens of meters behind him, unaware of the attack, Zheng Yi's face instantly turned cold. He twisted his feet in midair, and his entire body changed direction in a strange posture, just in time to dodge the exploding meteor hammer that was coming straight at him. Naturally, the trajectory of the exploding meteor hammer did not change. After being dodged by Zheng Yi, it continued on its original trajectory, heading straight for Zhuowen. Kid. You're dead for sure this time. I really want to see what your expression will be like before you die. Looking at the meteor hammer that was whistling towards Zhuowen, Zheng Yi's face revealed a perverted smile as he whispered coldly. Boom. Boom. The loud noise caused by the meteor hammer immediately attracted the attention of Zhuowen and the other martial warriors around him. When the other martial warriors saw the meteor hammer, their faces immediately revealed a trace of fear. Oh my god! This is the meteor hammer of the Green Dragon City's captain, Fan Shi. Looking at the power on the surface of the meteor hammer, it is obvious that he has used a powerful armor skill. This is the full-strength attack of a perfect Heavenly King stage powerhouse. We can't stop it at all, run. Run, staying here is simply courting death. Some of the martial warriors who were fighting closer to Zhuowen, after seeing the meteor hammer flying towards them, fled in all directions like monkeys scattering when the tree falls. However, the meteor hammer's speed was too fast, and in the blink of an eye, it had arrived above these people. The moment the meteor hammer landed on the ground, Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. Soon, he saw Zheng Yi, who was sneering a few dozen meters away. It seemed that the meteor hammer that was heading towards him was not a coincidence. It was very likely that Zheng Yi had deliberately created a method to kill him with a borrowed knife. Just as this thought flashed across Zhuowen's mind, the huge meteor hammer finally smashed heavily into a place not far from him. Following that, a powerful pressure accompanied by a huge amount of yuan power surged out from the meteor hammer in an instant. With the meteor hammer as the epicenter, the berserk energy quickly spread out in all directions, enveloping an area of nearly 10 feet. Boom! 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 An earth-shattering explosion suddenly resounded in the entire open space, followed by a dazzling ball of light that burst out in the open space. Then, extremely shrill screams rose and fell one after another, as if ghosts were wailing and wolves were howling. However, the screams did not last for long before they completely stopped. Obviously, the owners of the screams had already died. Zhuoan. In a battle group far away from the meteor hammer explosion, Gu Xian and Hu Wuying, who were fighting with other martial warriors, were also attracted by the violent explosion. When they saw Zhuoan's figure completely enveloped by the power of the meteor hammer, they immediately widened their eyes and couldn't help but roar out in anger. Of course, the violent explosion also alarmed the attention of all the martial artists in the open space, so these martial artists stopped fighting one after another. Instead, they focused their gazes on the location of the explosion. Their faces were filled with fear. The power of Fan Shi's move was too great, causing many weaker martial artists to tremble in their hearts. Whoosh! The battle between the sisters Zhang Xinya and Zhang Huiya and Chen Fu also stopped because of this. They also focused their eyes on the location of the explosion. Their eyes were filled with shock, especially Zhang Huiya, who even revealed a faint smile at the corner of her mouth. If she remembered correctly, the area of the explosion seemed to be near Zhuoan. She was afraid that the annoying guy had already been completely killed by the destructive power of the explosion just now. Fan Shi's strength is still above my expectations. The power of this exploding meteor hammer is really terrifying. I'm afraid that if I were to face it head-on, even if I don't die, I would be seriously injured. Holding the blood-red broadsword in his hand, Chen Fu said to himself with fear in his eyes. Huff! At this moment, Fan Shi's chest was heaving up and down violently. His breathing had also become rather heavy. Clearly, the exploding meteor hammer that he had just used was quite a burden on him. Nearly half of the yuan power in his body had been consumed. Damn it! I actually didn't hit this guy. Fan Shi also saw Zheng Yi, who had dodged the exploding meteor hammer, and could not help but curse in a low voice. After withdrawing his gaze, Zheng Yi shifted his gaze to Fan Shi, who was panting a short distance away. From the way he saw it, Zhuoan would definitely die under Fan Shi's exploding meteor hammer. Therefore, he naturally placed all his attention on Fan Shi. As expected of a heaven-rank armor skill, the power it can unleash is actually so strong. However, now that you have lost your weapon, I'm afraid that your attack power has been greatly reduced. Do you think that you are still a match for me now? Zheng Yi sneered as the corner of his mouth curled into an arc. Hearing this, Fan Shi's face suddenly became gloomy. He coldly snorted and said, with your little strength, I can defeat you even without a weapon. Die! With a loud cry, Fan Shi's foot suddenly stomped on the ground. The enormous strength caused the ground to crack. Soon after, Fan Shi's entire body transformed into an illusory black shadow that rushed directly towards Zheng Yi. Do you really think that's all I have? If it weren't for the fact that I wanted to borrow a knife to kill someone, do you think that I would have dodged you? Zheng Yi's mouth parted as he quietly muttered in his heart. Not to be outdone, he held the green long spear and instantly approached Fan Shi. Subsequently, he clenched his right hand tightly, and a flood of yuan power immediately poured out. The green long spear in his hand had more than doubled in size. Bang! Zheng Yi's right hand pulled inwards, and the green long spear was violently thrown out. It was like a huge door that directly swung at Fan Shi's waist. A warning sign rose in Fan Shi's heart. He coldly snorted, and his right hand instantly stretched out in a claw shape in an attempt to grab the green long spear in his hand. Clang! The sound of metal clashing suddenly rang out. Fan Shi's right hand actually met Zheng Yi's green long spear head-on. Moreover, he had directly blocked it. However, Zheng Yi's face was filled with ridicule. Immediately, the 5 fingers of his right hand suddenly moved, and the green long spear in his hand suddenly rotated. At the same time, Waves of green energy escaped from the long spear, like a rain of needles, and shot toward Fan Shi without any warning. Fan Shi's expression changed drastically. He did not expect Zheng Yi to actually hide such a sinister move. He was caught off guard and was immediately bombarded by many green energy. Under the pain, Fan Shi involuntarily let go of the green long spear in his hand. "I'm really sorry. It seems that I have won the battle between us by a little, and you have become the final loser. So, go to hell." Zheng Yi laughed wantonly. His hand's movement was not slow. The green long spear was like a poisonous snake, approaching Fan Shi at a tricky angle in an instant, and violently swung at the latter's waist. Bang! The powerful force immediately caused Fan Shi to involuntarily fly backward. He spat out a mouthful of blood in midair, and the direction that Fan Shi flew backward was the explosion area that the exploding meteor hammer had just bombarded. At this time, there was still a thick smoke and dust in the explosion area that had not dissipated. However, when Fan Shi's body was about to fly into the explosion area, the former's body strangely stopped in midair, as if it had hit a hard wall. "Were you the one who hit the meteor hammer just now?" Just when everyone was wondering about Fan Shi's situation at this time, a rather clear voice suddenly came slowly from the smoke and dust. Then, a somewhat vague figure gradually walked out of the smoke and dust. At this time, Fan Shi's condition was not good. He was bleeding from his 7 orifices and was dying. Zheng Yi's attack just now was too ruthless. He did not intend to let Fan Shi live at all. Fan Shi was not far from death at this time. However, he still struggled to raise his head to look at the figure behind him. He knew that this figure had indirectly saved his life. After all, with his current severe injuries, if he fell directly to the ground, there was an 80% chance that he would die immediately. Chapter 381. Zheng Yi's fear. Looking at Fan Shi, who was already bleeding from all 7 orifices and on the verge of death, Zhuo Wen knew that the latter was not far from death. This was because the instant he came into contact with Fan Shi's body, Zhuo Wen discovered that many of the vital channels in the latter's body had already been brutally destroyed by a wave of yuan power. The chances of survival were extremely slim. Fan Shi's lips squirmed a few times. Finally, his head tilted and he stopped breathing. Looking at the lifeless Fan Shi in his hand, Zhuo Wen sighed and shook his head. He released his right hand and placed Fan Shi's body on the ground. Then, he looked coldly at Zheng Yi, who was standing not far away, stunned. At this moment, the entire space was deathly silent. Everyone stared at the nearby Zhuo Wen in disbelief. He was completely unscathed. They remembered very clearly that Fan Shi's exploding meteor hammer had directly hit the vicinity of this youth. That exploding meteor hammer was extremely powerful, enough to directly injure a cultivator at the peak of the Heavenly King stage, but this seemingly ordinary youth in front of them had actually walked out of the explosion unscathed. This was too inconceivable. Who the hell is this guy? Even I don't dare to take Fan Shi's exploding meteor hammer head on. This kid was hit by such an attack and is unscathed. This. Chen Fu's pupils shrank to the size of needles as he involuntarily cried out. Zhang Xinya and her sister, who were standing not far away from Chen Fu, looked as if they had seen a ghost. They stared blankly at the young man, whose face had been extremely calm since the beginning. Their cherry lips parted slightly, but they did not know what to say. Why is this guy so strange? He didn't die under such a powerful attack. This is too. The most surprised person was Zhang Huiya. She stared straight at Zhuowen and whispered to herself. Dang dang dang. Zhuowen looked indifferently at Zheng Yi, who had yet to recover from his shock. He slowly walked towards the ladder and said indifferently, Zheng Yi. Do you think I don't know what you've done? Fan Shi's attack just now was purposely created by you to kill with a borrowed knife. You used it pretty well, but... As he spoke, Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and continued, I, Zhuowen, believe that there is no enmity between us. Why are you targeting me? At this time, Zheng Yi also recovered from his absent-mindedness. He snorted coldly and said, "Your attitude made me very unhappy. You, a lowly person from a low-level city, dare to put on airs in front of me, Zheng Yi? You're simply courting death. Hee hee. Don't think that just because you survived Fan Shi's exploding meteor hammer, you are really powerful. In my opinion, you are still unable to withstand a single blow." As he spoke, Zheng Yi's lips curled into a sinister grin. He stomped his foot and the green spear in his hand emitted a green light. He directly pierced it towards Zhuowen. In his opinion, the reason why Zhuowen didn't die under Fan Shi's exploding meteor hammer was probably because he was lucky. After all, Zhuowen was only a martial artist from a low-level city. A low-level city was almost at the bottom of Muqin County, so how could it possibly cultivate a powerful martial artist? To be able to survive the bombardment of the exploding meteor hammer, it seems that your luck is really good. But now that I have made my move, your good luck will come to an end. You are dead meat. Zheng Yi sneered wantonly in midair. Oh. So in your opinion, it was only luck that I was able to survive the exploding meteor hammer? The corners of Zhuowen's mouth curled into a smile as he uttered such a brainless sentence. His skin began to slowly turn into a glazed color, and a luster flowed on the surface of his body like a meteor. In an instant, Zheng Yi's green spear pierced through the air like lightning. Before anyone could react, the sharp tip of the spear directly pierced into Zhuowen's chest. A sneer appeared at the corners of Zheng Yi's mouth. Zhuowen in front of him didn't dodge. In Zheng Yi's opinion, he was simply frightened. Therefore, the moment the spear pierced into Zhuowen's chest, Zheng Yi's eyes were full of disdain. As expected, he was just a lowly person from a low-level city. He was simply unable to withstand a single blow. Ding! However, the sneer on Zheng Yi's face quickly froze. This was because he realized that the moment the green spear pierced into Zhuowen's chest, it seemed to have pierced into an extremely hard rock. It actually emitted a sound of metal clashing. Subsequently, Zheng Yi was shocked to discover that the green spear was unable to move an inch in front of Zhuowen's chest. What made him even more shocked was that the green spear didn't even break through Zhuowen's skin. How is this possible? My clear moon spear is a high-level middle-level spiritual treasure. It has almost reached the point where it can cut through metal like mud. How can it not even break through his physical defense? How can this guy's body be so hard? Is he still human? The moment the sound of metal clashing rang out, Zheng Yi's pupils shrank to the size of needles. The depths of his eyes were already filled with horror. Is this all you've got? Are you sure you want to kill me? Standing quietly in the same spot, Zhuowen stared at Zheng Yi indifferently and said word by word. Damn it! You can go to hell for me. Clear moon spear, 10,000 spears return to one. Go to hell. Zheng Yi roared. His eyes were filled with madness. In an instant, his hands formed a few seals. The green spear in his hand suddenly burst out with a dazzling green light. Immediately, the green light split into countless green spears that floated around Zheng Yi. Then, Zheng Yi pinched the air with his right hand, and the countless spears around him suddenly gathered together, and finally turned into a huge green spear that was dozens of feet long. The strong pressure almost made the weaker cultivators in the open space breathless, and they all retreated far away. Let's see if you can survive this time. Zheng Yi laughed crazily. The huge green spear above his head suddenly pierced through the void and directly shot towards Zhuowen. The whistling sound of the air resounded in the open space. Zheng Yi. What are you doing? Zhuowen is a member of our team. Do you want to kill him? Looking at the huge green spear, Zhang Xinya, who was watching from the side, finally couldn't help but shout. Shut up. This Zhuowen is not a good person. I suspect that this bastard is likely a spy from Green Dragon City and Jiayu City. I'm doing this for the sake of our team. Zheng Yi did not care about Zhuo Wen at all. His eyes were filled with killing intent. At this moment, Zhuo Wen actually gave him a faint sense of threat. This feeling made him feel very uncomfortable. Moreover, Zhuo Wen's tough body also surprised him. At the same time, it made his killing intent even more intense. In the depths of his killing intent, there was a trace of greed. Zhuo Wen's body was so hard that it was comparable to a high-grade middle-grade spirit treasure. It was obvious that he had practiced an extremely powerful body refining technique. If he could also obtain this body refining technique, his strength was likely to rise to a higher level, and this battle for the Essence Chi Tower would give him another layer of hope. Thinking of this, Zheng Yi's right hand formed a seal. He directly controlled the huge green spear and pierced down from above Zhuo Wen's head. I want to see if your body is hard or my 10,000 spears return to one is hard. Zheng Yi's mouth was full of a sneer. After witnessing Zhuo Wen's powerful physical body, not only was Zheng Yi not afraid, but his killing intent had become even more intense. This outcome surprised Zhuo Wen quite a bit. At the same time, it also caused the killing intent in Zhuo Wen's heart to surge. You're courting death. Facing the huge green spear in the sky, Zhuo Wen only stretched out his right hand. Then, the huge green spear directly bombarded Zhuo Wen's right palm. Boom! The huge impact set off cyclones in the open space. The strong cyclones created a huge pressure, causing the entire open space to become a lot heavier. So powerful. The might of Zheng Yi's 10,000 spears returned to one is actually stronger than Fan Shi's exploding meteor hammer. That young man's realm doesn't seem high, but his body is comparable to a high-grade mid-grade soul treasure. How amazing! I just don't know if he can block Zheng Yi's 10,000 spears return to one. At the moment when the huge green spear collided with Zhuo Wen, many warriors couldn't help but discuss. However, their discussion didn't last for long. One by one, they stared at the center of the open space where the huge green spear was. An incredible scene suddenly appeared in front of their eyes. They saw that Zhuo Wen had actually grabbed the huge green spear that was dozens of feet long with his bare hands. What was even more incredible was that Zhuo Wen's right hand only lightly squeezed. Then, there was a clear cracking sound. Then, there were traces of cracks on the surface of the huge green spear. Bang! The cracks continued to spread. In the blink of an eye, they covered the entire body of the huge green spear. Then, the huge green spear collapsed inch by inch, turning into traces of green powder that scattered on the ground. Hua! An uproar instantly rose from the surroundings of the empty space. Everyone stared blankly at the young man in the center of the empty space, who was under the countless green brilliance. They were truly unable to imagine that such a powerful giant green spear was actually caught by the young man in front of them with his bare hands. Furthermore, he had directly crushed it into powder. What kind of strength did he need to do that? Impossible. How can your body be so hard that even the 10,000 spear unification can't break it? You're just a lowly person from a low-level city. How can you have such great strength? This is absolutely impossible. Zheng Yi spat out a mouthful of blood. He looked at his huge green spear that had been crushed into powder in a daze. He muttered to himself in a somewhat deranged manner. Whoosh! At the same time, Zhuo Wen moved at this moment. He instantly approached Zheng Yi and lifted him up with his right hand. Then, he said indifferently, originally, I had no enmity with you, but you provoked me for no reason. So, don't blame me for courting death. Feeling the force around his neck, Zheng Yi finally came to his senses. He looked at Zhuo Wen in horror. For the first time, he felt that death was so close to him. Don't kill me. You can't blame me for this. It's that bitch Zhang Huiya who asked me to deal with you. You can't blame me for this. Feeling the cold killing intent in Zhuo Wen's eyes, Zheng Yi exposed Zhang Huiya without hiding anything. After all, even Fan Shi had been defeated by Zheng Yi. Therefore, Zheng Yi's strength could only be higher than his. However, such an expert, who was slightly stronger than him, was like a little chick in front of Zhuowen. He could not resist at all. This naturally made Chen Fu extremely fearful of Zhuowen. He was afraid that Zhuowen would cause trouble for him. How amazing! This Zhuowen is clearly from a low-grade city, but his strength is far beyond the complete Heavenly King realm. I'm afraid his strength has already reached the half-step Ultimate Emperor realm. Originally, you had the opportunity to enter the Holy City directly by relying on such an expert. However, it seems like you've wasted that opportunity. Chen Fu carried his blood-red broadsword and looked at Zhang Xinya and Zhang Huiya with a mocking smile. When Zhang Xinya and Zhang Huiya heard this, their pretty faces turned pale. Zhang Huiya lowered her head sadly, while Zhang Xinya looked at Chen Fu angrily and said, "Chen Fu, what do you mean? Are you planning to stop us from entering the Holy City?" Hee hee. Right now, the two teams in the Holy City, Nine Dragon City and Thunder Universe City, are extremely strong. Now, with the addition of that strange Zhuowen, I'm afraid that the control center of this sandstone island is not something we can get our hands on. Therefore, Chen Fu, might as well take some benefits from you and directly teleport out of the Origin Chi Tower. Chen Fu clenched his blood-red broadsword tightly in his right hand and shouted, "Brothers! Don't be polite. Take these guys down. Right now, they're just a bunch of mobs." As Chen Fu spoke, he raised his blood-red broadsword and directly attacked Zhang Xinya and Zhang Huiya. The 7 or 8 people under him were not to be outdone. They fought bravely, not giving the other cultivators any chance to breathe. "Let's go." Zhang Xinya's pretty face changed slightly. She directly took Zhang Huiya, who was a little dazed, and fled into the depths of the jungle. She knew that with Zheng Yi's death and the left and right combination secret technique's time limit, they were no match for Chen Fu and the others. Therefore, she did not hesitate to retreat directly. You're running pretty fast." Looking at Zhang Xinya and Zhang Huiya who were quickly disappearing, Chen Fu did not intend to chase after them. Instead, he helped his team members deal with the other cultivators. After collecting the cultivators' Qiankuan bags, Chen Fu once again took a deep look at the holy city in the distance. He sighed and simply erased the words of Jiayu City on the token. Whoosh! A beam of light suddenly enveloped the people of Jiayu City, and then directly teleported them out of the Origin Chi Tower. Of course, the price was that they directly lost the qualification to participate in the Origin Chi Tower battle. Zhuowen and the other two walked slowly on a lush, tree-lined path. From time to time, other members of the Vestigial clan would pass by them and look at them curiously. Soon after, they withdrew their gazes with a trace of doubt. After all, Zhuowen and the other two's attire was somewhat incompatible with the Vestigial clans, so the rate of them turning their heads was extremely high. However, Zhuowen and the other two did not care about the gazes of these Vestigial clan members. "Zhuowen, why did you ask Zhang Xinya to take out the left and right combination secret technique? It doesn't seem to be of any use to you, right?" On the way, Gu Xian asked Zhuowen rather doubtfully. "This secret technique is indeed of no use to me, but it's of great use to the two of you. The left and right combination secret technique is a combination secret technique that can temporarily fuse the yuan energies of two people on a common point. Thus, the two of them can share their yuan energies and indirectly increase the density of their yuan energies. With this secret technique, the strength of the two of you will be able to rise to another level," Zhuowen said with a smile. Hearing this, Gu Xian and Hu Wuying could not help but be taken aback. They did not expect that Zhuowen wanted the left and right combination secret technique for the two of them. This made the two of them feel rather touched, and at the same time, a trace of guilt. It seemed that from the beginning, the two of them were like burdens by Zhuowen's side. "Zhuowen, it's all our fault for being too weak and always being a burden to you. Gu Xian and Hu Wuying said rather shamefully. Don't say that. You are also a part of my team. Since I am your captain, I will naturally not abandon you at will. Take this left and right combination secret technique and practice it well. If you learn it, the strength of the two of you combined will be enough to reach the strength of the initial Heavenly King stage. It will be more than enough to protect yourselves. Zhuowen flicked his finger and handed the jade slip to Gu Xian with a smile. Chapter 383. 30,000 riches. A towering city gate stood not far in front of them. An ancient aura slowly emanated from the city gate, as if it was telling of its ancient history and distant experiences. This huge city gate was the Holy City Gate. If one wanted to enter the Holy City, they had to pass the test of the Holy City Gate. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to enter at all. A huge stream of people lined up in front of the city gate, waiting to enter the Holy City. Most of these people were powerful warriors with bulging muscles. Of course, there was also a small portion of them who were frail and wealthy merchants. These merchants were dressed extravagantly and had arrogant gazes. A trace of disdain flashed in their eyes, especially when they looked at the warriors dressed in ordinary clothes around them. At the same time, on both sides of the city gate, there were two warriors in silver armor. The two warriors were extremely tall and huge. Their muscles were bulging in an exaggerated arc. Especially the silver badges on the chest of the two guards. It was obvious that the two guards were silver-tier warriors that should not be trifled with. At the end of the line, 3 slender figures were quietly lining up. These 3 were Zhuowen and the other 2 who were rushing to the Holy City. At this time, they were not in a hurry to enter the Holy City. Instead, they were quietly waiting for the line to advance. Priest Qiushue had already told them that the Holy City was not a place that anyone could enter. Only powerful warriors or rich people were qualified to enter the Holy City. If they tried to force their way in, they would be repelled by the Holy City's power. Although Zhuowen did not know how powerful the Holy City's power was, he remembered that the former lord of the Holy City, Alice, was a legendary warrior with a strength of 1,000,000 pounds. His strength was comparable to the powerful Ultimate Emperor realm. This so-called Holy City's power was not to be trifled with, so he gave up on the idea of forcing his way in. The Holy City is indeed the core of the entire Sandstone Island. The flow of people is so terrifying. Compared to the Qingshui tribe, the difference is like the difference between an ant and an elephant. Gu Xian couldn't help but exclaim as she looked at the terrifying flow of people around them. Zhuowen and Hu Wuying also nodded in agreement. The prosperity of the Holy City was not inferior to the super cities of Muqin Prefecture. To be able to build such a magnificent city on a barren island like the Sandstone Island, these lost clans were quite impressive. The strange attire of Zhuowen and the other 2, as well as their seemingly thin and weak physique, undoubtedly became the focus of the other people in the group. Many people looked at Zhuowen and the other 2 with strange gazes. Their gazes contained a variety of emotions, such as doubt, curiosity, disdain, and so on. Zhuowen's group of 3 paid no heed to the surrounding crowd's attitude. After all, they were not natives of Sandstone Island. Naturally, they wouldn't care about these people's gazes and attitudes. Youngsters, are the 3 of you planning to enter the Holy City? Suddenly, a simple and honest voice came from behind Zhuowen's group. Turning their heads, they saw a middle-aged man about 40 years old, with a sturdy body and a rather simple and honest face looking at Zhuowen and the others with some worry. Yes. Is there a problem? Zhuowen nodded subconsciously. The middle-aged man shook his head and said kindly, "This should be the first time the 3 of you are entering the Holy City. You should know that not everyone is qualified to enter the Holy City. You must pass a strength test before you are qualified. Moreover, the minimum requirement is at least 50,000 jin, which is equivalent to a high-grade bronze warrior. You are still too young. I'm afraid you will return disappointed." Zhuowen and the others were startled when they heard this. They never imagined that this simple and honest uncle before them would actually advise them. Perhaps this simple and honest uncle saw that Zhuo Wen and the others were young and appeared to be too weak to stand up to a gust of wind, so he kindly reminded them. With a slight smile, Zhuo Wen cupped his hands and said, "Thank you for your reminder, big brother. However, we have important matters to attend to when we enter the holy city, so we must enter the holy city this time. As for the strength test, we know what to do." Seeing Zhuowen and the other two's resolute attitude, the simple and honest uncle also knew that his advice was useless. He secretly shook his head, thinking that when the time came for the strength test, these three little guys would know how difficult it would be. Hee hee. Three brats who don't know the immensity of heaven and earth, with your skinny arms and legs, you think you can pass the test and enter the holy city? That's simply a pipe dream. Do you really think that the holy city is your backyard, where you can enter whenever you want? When the time comes and you can't pass the test, you will cry. A sharp mocking voice suddenly sounded. Standing behind the simple and honest uncle was a somewhat impatient fat man. This fat man was rather short and had a big belly. At a glance, one could tell that he didn't have any strength to speak of. However, the clothes on his body were extremely luxurious. His neck and hands were covered in golden jewelry and jewels, making him look like a nouveau riche. Obviously, this short and fat man should be a wealthy merchant who entered the holy city to do business. At the same time, behind the short and fat man were four muscular men respectfully. These muscular men all had green badges on their bodies. Obviously, they were all bronze warriors with great strength. Many people around looked at the fat man with fear. On the Sandstone Island, some wealthy merchants had a much higher status than ordinary warriors. Of course, they were only ordinary warriors. After all, the bronze warriors were a relatively lower class of people on the Sandstone Island. It was natural for wealthy merchants to have a higher status than bronze warriors. However, if it was a silver warrior, then the status of the silver warriors was not something that the wealthy merchants could compare to. This was because the number of silver warriors was too small. Every warrior whose strength reached the silver level was basically a genius with extraordinary talent. After entering the holy city, they would basically be able to obtain a very high status and treatment. In front of such a strong person, the wealthy merchants were simply a joke. Therefore, this short and fat man was only arrogant in front of the bronze warriors. In front of the silver warriors, he was more respectful than anyone else. Gu Xian was a little impatient. She glared at the short and fat man and said, "You three brats are still not convinced? Do you want to fight?" The short and fat man's chubby face was full of a mocking smile as he said loudly in a very annoying manner. Squinting his eyes, Zhuowen grabbed Gu Xian, who was a little impulsive, and said indifferently, "It's just a dog barking. There's no need to be so calculative." Hearing this, Gu Xian regained some of her rationality. She nodded slightly and ignored the pot-bellied rich merchant. Although Zhuowen and the other two did not want to cause more trouble, the short and fat man was not happy. Zhuowen's ridicule just now had completely angered him. In any case, he was a wealthy man. Whether it was his status or wealth, he was much higher than the average bronze warrior. Moreover, he was used to the wind and rain. How could he stand Zhuowen's ridicule? "How dare you talk nonsense to me, Kai Sanqian? Teach these three brats a lesson for me." The short and fat man, Kai Sanqian, snorted and said to the four bronze warriors behind him. Seeing that things were not going well, the simple and honest man immediately stood in front of Zhuowen and the other two. He hurriedly smiled and said, "So it's Master Kai Sanqian. You are a magnanimous person. You don't have to be so calculative with these three brats. They are also young, so they speak without thinking. I hope you don't lower yourself to their level. Moreover, this is the entrance of the holy city. The rules forbid private fights." Kai Sanqian squinted his eyes. He also saw that the simple and honest man was also a bronze warrior. He rolled his eyes and said, "You also saw that these three people offended me first. If you let the three of them kneel on the ground and apologize to me solemnly, I can let bygones be bygones. How about that?" Hearing this, the simple and honest man's face stiffened. He said again, "Master Kai Sanqian, don't you think you are going too far?" "Going too far? Humph. I am already very merciful that I did not break their legs directly. Now I just want them to kneel and apologize. How is that going too far? Since these three brats don't want to apologize, then don't blame me." Saying this, Kai Sanqian waved his fleshy arm. The four ferocious bronze warriors behind him immediately surrounded Zhuowen and the other two people, as well as the simple and honest man. Zhuowen frowned. He did not expect this damn fatty to be so narrow-minded. He actually wanted to teach them a lesson with just a sarcastic remark. At this moment, the rest of the team also noticed the farce. Many of them recognized Kai Sanqian's identity and began to whisper to each other. Isn't that Kai Sanqian? This miser has come to the holy city to do business again. It seems like we are going to make a fortune this time." The three young men seemed to have a conflict with Kai Sanqian. How unlucky. Kai Sanqian is very narrow-minded. He is the kind of person who will seek revenge. It is the three brats' bad luck to have offended such a person. Many warriors around the team looked as if they were watching a good show. They did not intend to step forward to help. Teach these four guys a good lesson. Let them know that some people are not to be trifled with. Kai Sanqian sneered. The four bronze warriors immediately pounced on the simple and honest man, Zhuowen and the other two people, with ferocious smiles on their faces. "The three of you, go quickly. These guys are not people you can fight against. I will help you buy some time." The simple and honest man had a good heart. When he saw the four bronze warriors pouncing on them, he hurriedly instructed Zhuowen and the other two people behind him. This gave Zhuowen a good impression of him. "Brother, thank you for your kindness. However, we will deal with these four small fries." Zhuowen smiled. Gu Xian and Hu Wuying, who were beside him, stomped their feet on the ground. In an instant, they turned into indiscernible shadows. Bang 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 bang. Four dull sounds of fists hitting flesh suddenly rang out. Immediately, the four bronze warriors who were pouncing on them suddenly froze in midair. The ferocious smiles on their faces also froze at this moment. Pfft! Fresh blood spurted out from their mouths like a faucet that was not turned on properly. Then, the four bronze warriors fell heavily on the ground like dead dogs, their bodies twitching non-stop. Chapter 384. Test Hiss. Gasps could be heard all of a sudden, and the surrounding crowd couldn't help but gasp. Although Kai Sanqian's four subordinates were only bronze-ranked warriors, their strength could reach 10 to 20,000 pounds. If the four of them worked together, they could probably fight against a bronze-ranked warrior. But now, in the blink of an eye, the four bronze warriors were all beaten down without any resistance. Those who could have such strength were at least high-level bronze warriors, and their strength could reach 70 to 80,000 pounds. Am I seeing things? The four bronze warriors were dealt with so cleanly and neatly. And they didn't even have the strength to fight back. These two young men are too terrifying. They look so thin, but their strength is so strong. The four bronze warriors were defeated in the blink of an eye. An uproar suddenly rang out. Immediately, a commotion broke out in the surroundings. Plop! Kai Sanqian's legs trembled, and he fell to the ground. His lips trembled as he looked at Gu Xian and Hu Wuying, and said, "You. What do you want?" "Let me tell you, I, Kai Sanqian, know a lot of people in the holy city. If you dare to mess around, you'll have to bear the consequences." Kai Sanqian's heart was already filled with fear. He didn't expect that Gu Xian and Hu Wuying, who looked so thin and weak, would actually be so strong. In just a few moves, they had beaten down his 4 subordinates. Take care of your dog. If you provoke us again, I don't know what I'll do. Gu Xian said coldly as she glanced at Kai Sanqian, who was scared out of his wits. Then, she returned to Zhuowen's side. Kai Sanqian was so weak that he didn't even have the strength to truss up a chicken. Yes. Yes. You're right, I'll take care of my dog. Kai Sanqian was indeed a businessman. The speed at which he changed his attitude made the surrounding people speechless. However, Zhuowen and the other 2 didn't notice the resentment in Kai Sanqian's eyes. He thought to himself, damn brat, I'll deal with you after we enter the holy city. At this moment, the simple and honest uncle was already dumbfounded. He never would have thought that Zhuo Wen and the other 2, whom he thought to be weak and powerless, actually had such extraordinary strength. After all, to be able to instantly take care of 4 low-level bronze warriors, their strength was at least at the high-level bronze level. He really didn't expect that these 3 young people would be stronger than him at such a young age. It seemed that his worry just now was completely unnecessary. He thought self-deprecatingly and couldn't help but shake his head gently. Zhuowen also saw the self-deprecating expression on the honest uncle's face. Zhuowen had a good impression of this warm-hearted uncle. After thinking for a moment, he took out a white porcelain bottle from his Qiankuan bag and handed it to the honest uncle. Brother. Thank you so much for helping us out just now. This bottle of elixir will help you strengthen your body and has an extremely significant effect on increasing your strength. So, take this as a reward for your help. Zhuowen said with a smile. Originally, the honest uncle didn't want to accept Zhuowen's porcelain bottle. After all, he didn't help at all. However, when he heard that the elixir in the porcelain bottle could increase his strength, his eyes suddenly emitted a glimmer of light. The vestigial tribe's warriors focused on training their bodies and increasing their strength. The elixir that could increase their strength was extremely precious and tempting for warriors. Thank you, little brother. I, Ho Ming, owe you a favor. The honest uncle took the porcelain bottle in Zhuowen's hand with trembling hands and said gratefully. Zhuowen waved his hand. The elixir in the porcelain bottle was called the health elixir. It was an extremely low-level elixir. When Zhuowen had just crossed over, he relied on the health elixir to train his body and strengthen his body. However, as his strength increased, this elixir became more and more useless. At this time, he didn't feel any heartache to take it out. After the small disturbance just now, the team was still proceeding in an orderly manner. The other members of the team finally stopped looking down on Zhuo Wen and the other 2. After all, if Zhuo Wen and the other 2 were able to defeat 4 low-level bronze warriors so easily, it was obvious that Zhuo Wen and the other 2 were not weak. They were at least high-level bronze existences. Looking at the awe-inspiring gazes from all around, Zhuowen just shrugged. It seemed that the principle of the strong being respected was applicable everywhere. After about half an hour, Zhuowen's group was basically at the front of the team. At this time, it was the turn of a young and vigorous man in front of Zhuowen to test his strength. You punch at that sacred monument. When the time comes, the sacred monument will analyze the strength in your body. Let me warn you. Only when the strength of more than 50,000 jin are you qualified to enter the holy city. Don't try to fish in troubled waters. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. The 2 silver-ranked warriors guarding the city gate were extremely tall, at least 2 meters tall. They looked at the young man in front of them condescendingly and said in an indifferent voice. The young man responded submissively and hurriedly walked to the huge sacred monument at the side of the city gate. This sacred monument was 10 feet in size. On the surface of the sacred monument, there was a faint golden glow. At a glance, it seemed to be quite dazzling. Looking at the appearance of the sacred monument, Zhuowen raised his eyebrows. They clearly remembered that Hu Wuying defeated Kai Sanwen's 4 bronze warriors in a very straightforward manner. Obviously, this person would have a good result in the strength test. Kai Sanwan, who was standing in the line, also stared at Hu Wuying's figure without blinking. He wanted to see the extent of this kid's strength. Only after he understood the strength of these 3 brats, would he be able to figure out how to deal with them in the holy city. Hu Wuying's face was calm. He clenched his 5 fingers and then casually punched the sacred monument. A thunderous sound suddenly rang out. Immediately, Hu Wuying silently took a few steps back and looked at the top of the sacred monument. Chi! The sacred tablet displayed the results in a similar manner. However, when the results finally appeared in front of everyone's eyes, everyone was stunned. Even the guards at the city gates could not help but be stunned. When he regained his senses, the gaze he used to look at Hu Wuying had changed. Strength of 300,000 jin, pass. After the guard reported the result with a dry voice, a commotion broke out among the crowd. They didn't expect Hu Wuying's strength to be measured to be 300,000 jin. This was already the level of a silver-ranked warrior. A warrior of this level was in existence with high authority in the holy city. I can't believe that this young man, who looks so young and frail, actually has a strength of 150,000 pounds. This kid's strength is definitely comparable to a silver-level warrior. Yes. After this kid enters the holy city, he will definitely have a meteoric rise. The sound of discussion rang out. Everyone stared at Hu Wuying's figure with eager eyes. Little brother, your test results are excellent. Now you can enter the holy city. With your strength, if you seek refuge with Lord Otto's, I'm afraid you will be put in an important position very soon. The guard, who had a tense face, smiled for the first time and reminded Hu Wuying with enthusiasm. After all, the strength of the young man in front of him was higher than his. He did not dare to be negligent. Unexpectedly, Hu Wuying shook his head and said, I'll wait here. My 2 companions also need to take the test. When they are done, it won't be too late for the 3 of us to leave together. Hearing this, the guard was stunned. He did not expect such a powerful young man in front of him to have companions. To be his companions, their strength must be similar. Obviously, his companions were also at the level of a silver-level warrior. I wonder what level my physical strength will reach after 2 days of tempering the crystal jades. With this thought in mind, Zhuowen clenched his 5 fingers into a fist and suddenly punched out. A huge force formed a vacuum around Zhuowen's body. Countless transparent air currents surrounded Zhuowen's fist and turned into a spiral cyclone. Boom! The punch landed on the sacred steel. Immediately, an extremely strong ring-shaped wave of air swept out in all directions with Zhuowen as the center. Many warriors who were close to the sacred steel were forced to retreat under the effect of this wave of air. Some even fell to the ground in a sorry state. Even the guard, who was a silver warrior, was shocked. He covered his face with his hands and retreated continuously. He only stabilized his body after retreating more than 10 steps. This guy's strength. After stabilizing his body, the guard immediately looked at Zhuowen in the distance. Immediately, his pupils shrank to the size of needles. His mouth opened wide uncontrollably, and his face was full of disbelief. This was because he saw that the surface of the sacred steel, which was as hard as iron, was slowly showing traces of cracks. Moreover, these cracks were constantly spreading in all directions, like the veins of a human body. Crack! A crisp cracking sound suddenly rang out. Immediately, the sacred steel, which was 10 feet tall, crumbled inch by inch and turned into an endless amount of powder that drifted in the air. At this moment, the city gate fell into an extremely strange silence. Whether it was the guards standing at the city gate or the many warriors in the line, they were all dumbfounded as they stared at the sacred steel that had turned into powder. For a long time, they could not make a sound. Looking at the sacred steel that was shattered by his punch, Zhuowen's face suddenly had a trace of embarrassment. At the same time, there was a trace of joy in his heart. He did not expect that the effect of refining the crystal jade would be so good. In just 2 days, the strength of his physical body had reached such an unbelievable level. According to his estimation, just the strength of his physical body alone was probably around 500,000 pounds. If he directly used yuan power, the strength would be even greater. I really did not expect that just by reaching the peak of the 6th level of the jade stone body tempering technique, my physical strength would reach the standard of a gold warrior. If I can completely cultivate the jade stone body tempering technique to the 7th level, I'm afraid that my physical strength will reach an unimaginable level. It is very likely that I will not be weaker than a legendary warrior. Feeling the abundant strength in his body, Zhuowen could not help but think to himself with joy. You actually shattered the sacred steel. The strange silence at the city gate was finally broken by the guard. At this moment, the guard's voice was extremely hoarse. The gaze he looked at Zhuowen with became extremely complicated. No matter what, he did not expect that the sacred steel, which was specially used to test one's physical strength, would be shattered by someone. Moreover, this day had actually appeared in front of him. This is too unbelievable. How did this young man do it? He actually shattered the sacred steel directly. Oh my God! Just what kind of strength does this young man have? Even the saint steel was shattered by him. This is just too inconceivable. I have to rub my eyes to see if I'm hallucinating. In an instant, the entire city gate fell into an extremely frenzied discussion. Everyone's pupils constricted as they stared at Zhuowen and the sacred steel that had already turned into powder beside him. Zhuowen scratched his head slightly awkwardly and said to the guard apologetically, "It shouldn't be a problem to break this sacred steel, right?" Hearing this, the corner of the guard's mouth twitched. Although he really wanted to scold this young man in front of him, he did not dare to. This was because this young man's physical strength could possibly reach the level of 250,000 pounds. This was because a silver warrior could not shatter the sacred steel with a single punch. Only a gold warrior could do this. He did not dare to offend such an existence. Where did this young man come from? To be able to shatter the sacred steel with a single punch, his physical strength could very well be at least 250,000 pounds. His strength is enough to be ranked as a gold warrior. Thinking bitterly in his heart, the guard hurriedly smiled respectfully and said, "Of course it's all right. How can this sacred steel be compared to Sir? Your physical strength has reached the standard. You can definitely enter the holy city directly." Seeing the forced smile on the guard's face, Zhuowen felt a little apologetic in his heart. However, he knew that since he had already destroyed the sacred steel, it was impossible for him to take out another one. Therefore, he nodded slightly and directly led Gu Xian and Hu Wuying into the city gate. "Sir, what should we do next? The sacred steel has already been destroyed by that, sir. How are we going to test it?" A man standing behind the guard asked with a bitter smile. "Sigh. You should quickly go to the Parthenon temple and inform the saintess about this matter. The saintess should have extra sacred steels. She can just take out another one. However, that young man's strength has definitely reached the level of a gold warrior. When you return, you should also inform the saintess." The guard quickly calmed down and said to the man behind him. Chapter 386. 9 Dragon City. Inside the holy city, there was an endless stream of people. At a glance, it was densely packed with people. Its degree of prosperity was almost no less than Broken Rock City. Whoosh! As soon as they entered the holy city, the badge on Zhuowen's waist lit up. The teams from 9 Dragon City and Thunder Universe City are indeed in the holy city. These 2 teams are not to be underestimated. "The 3 of us better be careful," Zhuowen said to Gu Xian and Hu Wuying behind him. Gu Xian and Hu Wuying nodded cautiously and followed closely behind Zhuoan. On a wide street on the west side of the holy city, a group of people dressed in luxurious black robes slowly walked down the street. Their leader had a head of curly brown hair and a gaze as sharp as a wild wolf's. It was an exceptionally terrifying sight. This brown-haired youth was the captain of the group from Nine Dragons City, Feng Long. He was an expert who could break through to the ultimate emperor realm at any time. Feng Long, who was walking leisurely in front of the team, suddenly frowned and stopped. He glanced at the badge on his waist and saw that it was flashing rapidly. Feng Long. Why did you suddenly stop? A graceful woman in red clothes standing behind Feng Long asked with a frown. The woman in red clothes was one of the 3 Ultimate Emperor Realm experts in the team from Nine Dragons City. She was quite powerful. It seems like another team has entered the Holy City. They clearly know that the teams from Nine Dragons City and Thunder Universe City are in the Holy City, yet they still dare to enter. It seems like this team is quite brave. Feng Long said with a smile on his face. They are quite brave indeed. Why don't we get rid of that team? The woman in red clothes also saw the shining badge in Feng Long's hand. Her beautiful eyes moved as she said with a smile. No need. They are just clowns. Our main opponent this time is still Thunder Universe City. And after so many days of investigation, we finally know the way to obtain this sandstone island. Let's go to the Parthenon Temple first and ask the saintess of the temple to open the trial for us, Feng Long said while shaking his head. That's true. However, what if the Holy Maiden doesn't agree? The red-clothed woman nodded and asked worriedly. I heard that the Holy City's Holy Maiden is extremely kind. We only need to casually kill a few powerful members of the bereaved clan in front of the Holy Maiden. I'm afraid that the Holy Maiden will have to agree even if she doesn't want to. Feng Long's eyes revealed a trace of coldness as he smiled. Although the Lu Nantian had stated in advance that no ancient survivors were to be wantonly slaughtered in the tower, the Lu Nantian would not care too much about killing a few ancient survivors. Let's go. Don't let Thunder Universe City beat us to it. Saying this, Feng Long led the team to the Parthenon Temple. Currently, on the top floor of the Parthenon Temple, the blonde saintess Alice frowned. For some reason, she felt uneasy today. Lady Alice, what is troubling you so much? Let Qiushui hear it. Perhaps Qiushui can share your burden. In the hall, a young woman with a graceful figure stood behind Alice. When she saw the latter frown, she couldn't help but ask worriedly. If Zhuoan and the other 2 were here, they would be able to recognize this young woman as Priest Qiushui who had separated from them not long ago. I don't know why. Recently, I've been feeling a little uneasy, as if some danger is approaching the Holy City. Alice said with a wry smile. Hearing this, Priest Qiushui lowered her head and pondered. The saintess was the person with the highest achievement in the Tao of formations on the Sandstone Island. Her premonitions were extremely accurate. Since the saintess said so, perhaps some disaster was really coming to the Holy City. Dong! Suddenly, an armored warrior hurried into the hall and knelt before the saintess on one knee. Lady Saintess, is there a holy monument in the temple? Holy monument? Why are you asking this? Is there a problem with the holy monument at the city gate? Alice frowned and stared at the warrior below. There is indeed a problem. The sacred steel has already been shattered into pieces by a young man with a single punch. The warrior wiped off the cold sweat on his forehead and said cautiously. What? It was shattered by someone? Alice, who was originally uneasy, trembled when she heard this news. She could not help but cry out involuntarily. Even Priest Qiushui, who was standing at the side of the hall, had her beautiful eyes slightly bulged when she heard this news. There was a hint of extreme shock in the depths of her eyes. The holy monument was personally refined by the saintess. Its hardness was almost indestructible. even a warrior at the peak of the silver level could not break the holy monument. Perhaps only the lord of the holy city, Ados, had such strength. However, Zhuowen's figure soon appeared in Priest Joshue's mind. The figure of him killing the evil creature was deeply imprinted in her mind and could not be erased for a long time. Could it be Zhuowen and his two companions? Priest Joshua could not help but murmur softly. To break the holy monument, one must at least have the strength of a gold warrior. In the entire Sandstone Island, only the lord of the holy city, Ados, has such strength. Could it be that other than the lord of the holy city, there are others who have reached the level of a gold warrior? Alice frowned and asked doubtfully. The one who broke the holy monument was a young man who was only about 18 years old. That young man looked rather frail, but no one would have thought that his body actually contained such a powerful strength. Moreover, that young man had two companions. His companions were also quite strong, having the strength of an advanced silver warrior. I do not know where they came from. Hearing this, Priest Joshua was even more certain that the young man who broke the holy monument was Zhuowen. She did not doubt that Zhuowen had the strength of a gold warrior. Moreover, Zhuowen and his companions were also in a group of 3. Alice sighed and said, "There is still one holy monument left in the temple. Go to the magic formation room on the first floor of the temple and retrieve it. This is the key to the magic formation room." As she spoke, Alice took out a golden key and handed it to the soldier who reported. "Thank you, Saintess." After receiving the key, the soldier nodded slightly, bowed, and left the hall. When only Alice and Priest Joshua were left in the hall, Priest Joshua's beautiful eyes flashed slightly. Finally, she said respectfully, "Saintess, that young man who broke the holy monument should be the Zhuowen I told you about. In the entire Sandstone Island, only he has the strength of a gold warrior." Hearing Priest Joshua's words, Alice said in surprise, "That Zhuowen who killed the evil creature? That's him." Being able to kill the evil creature already proves that Zhuowen has such strength. Moreover, I believe that Zhuowen is even stronger than the lord of the holy city, Lord Ados. After all, Lord Ados does not have the strength to kill the evil creature. Priest Joshua nodded slightly. Hearing Priest Joshua's evaluation, a trace of surprise appeared in Alice's beautiful eyes. She was rather curious about the young man Zhuowen that Priest Joshua had mentioned. Boom! 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 Suddenly, an extremely violent explosion came from below the Parthenon temple. Soon after, the entire Parthenon temple trembled violently. Alice and Priest Joshua in the hall lost their balance due to the tremors and almost fell. What's going on? Why is the temple suddenly trembling? Alice's beautiful face changed slightly. Saintess, it's not good. Someone is attacking the temple. 2 panicked maids quickly ran in from outside the hall and shouted loudly. What? Someone actually dares to attack the temple? How is this possible? Alice's face changed drastically when she heard this. The Parthenon temple was the core of the holy city. It was also the sacred land of countless lost tribes. For thousands of years, no one had ever attacked the temple, yet it had happened today. Alice quickly regained her composure and asked the maids in front of her, "Did you see who is attacking the temple?" "It's a group of people in black. There are only 8 of them, but each of them has a tremendous amount of energy. I'm afraid there are several gold warriors among them." Right now, the group of black-robed men were recklessly attacking the array formation outside the holy temple. "Saintess, you should quickly enter the secret passage and leave the temple. Those people might be attacking the temple for you," the 2 maids said in fear. "What? Several gold warriors? How is that possible? Since when did our Sandstone Island have so many gold warriors? Where's the lord of the holy city, Ados? Why hasn't Ados appeared when someone is attacking the temple?" Alice's face turned pale as she hurriedly asked about Ados' situation. The two maids shook their heads in confusion and said, "It's been many days since we've seen Lord Otto's. We don't know where Lord Otto's is right now." Kacha. All of a sudden, the entire Parthenon temple started trembling violently. It was as if the heavens and earth were falling apart. The crisp sound of shattering glass rang out. "Oh no, the formations outside the temple have been broken." Alice's pretty face instantly turned pale when the crisp sound rang out. She spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. The magic formation of the Parthenon temple was closely related to Saintess Alice. If the magic formation was broken, Saintess Alice would suffer the backlash of the magic formation. "Saintess, we have to leave the temple immediately. The two of you, hurry and help the Saintess." Priest Joshua made a prompt decision. She ordered the two maids to help Alice and led the way out of the hall. She remembered that the secret passage in the temple was at the corner of the corridor to the left. They would be safe once they entered the passage. Soon, Priest Joshua and the others arrived at the corner of the corridor. There was an inconspicuous mirror at the corner of the corridor. Priest Joshua made a hand seal and chanted an obscure incantation. Shortly after, ripples appeared on the surface of the mirror before her, and then a deep secret passageway appeared within the mirror. "Let's go in." Joy appeared on Priest Joshua's face when she saw the passage in the mirror. She lifted her foot and stepped in. However, a golden aura shot towards her like an arrow the moment she lifted her foot. It slammed into her shoulder. Bang! Chapter 387. Feng Long and Pang Tongzhuowen's group of three strolled along the street, enjoying the sight of the buildings of different styles in the holy city. Boom! 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 A violent explosion suddenly rang out. Zhuowen's group of three came to a halt as they shifted their gazes towards the source of the sound. The explosion came from the Parthenon temple. Could it be that the two teams from Nine Dragons City and Thunder Universe City have started fighting? Gu Xan asked in astonishment. The magnificent Parthenon temple in the distance was currently shaking violently. A transparent barrier surrounded the Parthenon temple. It was obviously an extremely powerful defensive formation. Above the defensive formation, a group of 8 people were constantly unleashing extremely powerful primary energy, bombarding the barrier in an attempt to completely destroy the defensive formation. The Parthenon temple is the core of the holy city. It must contain the secrets of the control center of the Sandstone Island. Previously, Priest Joshua also mentioned about the power of the holy city. According to her, only those who pass the test of the Parthenon temple are qualified to obtain the power of the holy city. I'm afraid all the secrets are inside the temple. Come, let's go to the temple. Having said that, Zhuowen took the lead and rushed straight towards the Parthenon temple in the distance, while Gu Xian and Hu Wuying followed closely behind. In the corridor at the top of the Parthenon temple, Priest Joshua stood up with difficulty with the help of another maid. Her beautiful eyes stared at the group of people slowly approaching in front of her in horror. The golden energy just now was extremely terrifying. At this moment, her body felt like it was about to fall apart, and it was extremely difficult for her to even move. Who are you people? Why are you trespassing into the temple? Seeing the group of people slowly approaching from the end of the corridor, Alice asked in a delicate voice. There were 8 people at the end of the corridor, all of them wearing black luxurious clothes. The person in the lead had brown hair and a wicked smile on his face. These 8 people were the team from Nine Dragons City, and the brown-haired man in the lead was the captain of Nine Dragons City, Feng Long. You must be Saintess Alice. Beautiful Miss Alice, there is no need to panic. We have no ill intentions. We only have a small request for trespassing into the temple. I hope Miss Alice can agree to this small request of mine. Feng Long cupped his hands together in an elegant manner. Request? What request? Hearing this, Alice had a bad feeling in her heart. This request is very simple. Legend has it that the Parthenon temple was built by the only legendary warrior on the sandstone island, Alice. Below the Parthenon temple lies a trial left behind by Alice. Alice once declared that whoever could pass the trial would become the true ruler of the sacred city and control the sandstone island. The corners of Feng Long's lips curled up as he continued, "That is why our request is for Miss Alice to open the entrance to the training ground beneath the temple. I would like to test the might of that training ground." "Your goal is to enter the trial ground beneath the temple?" "No, the trial beneath the holy temple must not be open to the public." Alice firmly disagreed when she heard this. Feng Long narrowed his eyes when he heard this. He snorted coldly and said, "Miss Alice, as far as I know, the temple has opened the passage to the trial ground many times in the past. Why can't it be open now? You should know that my patience is limited. If you wait for me to lose my patience, I don't know what I will do." Feng Long's right hand moved slightly as he spoke. With a flick of his finger, a golden aura surged out like an arrow. Puchi. The golden energy was like the sharpest arrow, instantly piercing through Priest Choshue's abdomen. Blood immediately poured out of Priest Choshue's wound like a faucet that had not been turned on properly. Priest Choshue's pretty face was pale and in pain. She clutched her wound and collapsed to the ground. "Stop! You!" Alice's face was pale as she glared at Feng Long with hatred. "Miss Alice, I said that my patience is limited. I hope you will not challenge my bottom line again. Because I can't guarantee that I won't kill that woman the next time." Feng Long played with his fingers as he spoke in an indifferent tone. Alice suddenly felt dejected when she heard this. She knew that the man in front of her was a cruel and merciless person. He would definitely take Priest Autumn Water's life the next time he made a move. "I'll tell you the truth. The king of the Netherworld clan, the king of the evil creatures, was sealed under the temple. Its strength far surpassed other ordinary evil creatures. Even the golden warriors were no match for the king of the evil creatures. Only a legendary level warrior can defeat it. The king of evil was sealed here by Lord Alice. The reason Lord Alice built the Parthenon temple was to suppress the king of evil. As for the trial ground, it was built to select the true lord of the holy city. The king of evil was too powerful. Even Lord Alice was unable to eliminate it. Thus, he could only use the trial ground to select another lord of the holy city. This way, the king of evil could continue to be suppressed. However, thousands of years have passed. Generations of warriors have entered the trial ground. Yet, no one has succeeded in becoming the lord of the holy city and inheriting the power of the holy city. As time passed, the king of evil under the temple gradually awakened. Thus, the king of evil attempted to break through the seal. Due to the Parthenon temple, the king of evil was unable to break through the seal. However, the king of evil was too powerful. Although it did not break through the seal, its power had invaded the trial ground. The trial ground has now fallen into the king of evil's territory. Entering the trial ground is simply courting death. Moreover, once the passage to the trial ground is opened, the king of evil's power will inevitably enter the sandstone island through the passage. When that happens, the king of evil might break out of the seal. When that happens, the people will be plunged into misery and suffering, with mountains of corpses and seas of blood. Alice's pretty face was filled with a dignified expression. In the end, she narrated the unforeseen events of the trial grounds. If the trial grounds had not been eroded by the king of evil creatures, opening the trial grounds would not be a problem. But now, they absolutely could not open it. Otherwise, the king of evil creatures might really break out of the seal. The expressions of Feng Long and the others turned grave when they heard this. Although they did not know what the so-called king of evil was, they knew the power of a legendary level warrior. On the Sandstone Island, a legendary level warrior's strength could reach over 1,000,000 kilograms. They could tear the sky apart with a wave of their fist, and crack the earth with a stomp of their foot. They were extremely powerful, comparable to a peak Ultimate Emperor realm powerhouse in the outside world. However, the King of Evil was actually able to contend against an existence like a peak Ultimate Emperor realm powerhouse. Clearly, its strength was terrifying. This made Feng Long and the others feel rather apprehensive. Seeing that Feng Long and the others were moved, Alice let out a light sigh. She could feel that the strength of the people in front of her was extremely terrifying. In particular, Feng Long's oppressive aura gave her a kind of illusion of vastness. Clearly, Feng Long was an existence that far surpassed the Holy City Lord, Otto's. Captain. What should we do now? If what Alice said is true, then the trial ground is likely to be a dangerous place, the woman in red suddenly said. Feng Long's eyes darkened. He shook his head and said, Our 9-Dragon City must obtain the control center of the Sandstone Island. Otherwise, our 9-Dragon City will stop at the first floor of the Origin Chi Tower. That's not my style at all. Since that so-called King of Evil isn't weaker than a peak Ultimate Emperor realm powerhouse, I'm very interested in meeting it. After all, I've been suppressing my strength for far too long. It's about time for me to release it. Captain. Do you intend to break through after entering the trial ground? The woman in red frowned when she heard this. I've been stuck at the half-step Ultimate Emperor realm for over 2 years. At the same time, I've been preparing for over 2 years. This time, I'm confident that I can withstand the heavenly tribulation. As long as I can endure it, I'll be able to advance to the mid-Ultimate Emperor realm. Then, I should have no problem facing the King of Evil. Feng Long's eyes narrowed as he spoke indifferently. The woman in red immediately revealed an excited expression when she heard this. If Feng Long could successfully advance to the Ultimate Emperor realm, then 9-Dragon City would definitely be able to obtain a decent ranking in the competition for the Origin Chi Tower. Miss Alice. I'm very sorry, but we must enter the trial ground. Today, you must open the passage to the trial ground for us. Otherwise, I don't mind going on a killing spree. You should have seen my strength by now. With my strength, killing the silver warriors of the Holy City is as easy as slaughtering dogs. Therefore, I hope that you'll agree to our request. Feng Long's gaze was fixed on Alice at this moment. His tone was flat and unquestionable. Alice's face paled. Just as she was about to say something, a rather ear-piercing explosion suddenly rang out. Then, another group of people appeared at the end of the corridor. Ha! Feng Long, you're pretty fast. You actually found the Holy Maiden so quickly. A somewhat savage laugh suddenly rang out from the corridor behind them. Feng Long and the others frowned and turned their heads to look behind them. They saw a group of 8 people slowly walking towards them from the end of the corridor. The person in the lead was about 25 years old. He had a sturdy body, and what was even stranger was that this person had a head of short white hair. Each strand of hair stood up like silver needles. Moreover, strands of lightning flickered between his white hair like spirit snakes. Thunder University's captain, Pang Tong. Feng Long narrowed his eyes and coldly stared at Pang Tong, who was striding towards them. What? You don't welcome me? The fight for control of the island this time will depend on our own abilities. When we enter the trial ground, it will depend on which of us obtains the key first. Chapter 388. Field of Trials. The person Pang Tong had casually tossed to the ground was a middle-aged man. He had a muscular body and was slightly taller than Pang Tong. He wore golden armor, but at this moment, the golden armor was cracked and broken. It was obvious that it had gone through an extremely fierce battle. When Alice and the others saw the man who had been tossed to the ground, they were shocked. This man in golden armor was the current lord of the Holy City, Otto's. No wonder I didn't see any of you. You went to deal with Otto's. Feng Long looked indifferently at the unconscious Otto's on the ground and said with a slight smirk. After all, This guy is the lord of the holy city in name. He looks strong, but he can't take a beating at all. This kind of trash can be called the lord of the holy city. What a joke. Pang Tong laughed unscrupulously as he kicked Otto's back and said, "Don't play dead with me. Hurry up and wake up." Poochie. Otto's immediately spat out a mouthful of blood from Pang Tong's kick and woke up from his coma. When Otto saw that he was under Pang Tong's foot, his eyes were filled with anger. "Bastard! I'll kill you." With a roar, Otto's pounced at Pang Tong without any regard for his life. "Trash! You want to kill me with this little strength of yours? You really don't know what's good for you." Pang Tong sneered and stomped his foot forward. A bolt of lightning as thick as a child's arm suddenly burst out from the ground and bombarded Otto's chest. Poochie. Otto spat out another mouthful of blood. His entire body was suspended in the air by the powerful lightning energy. Pang Tong smiled cruelly and smashed his right elbow down, smashing directly into Otto's back. Boom! Otto's was directly smashed into the ground. The powerful force immediately blasted a human-shaped hole in the white stone floor. Otto's was embedded in the ground, struggling silently. Pang Tong stepped on Otto's face and stared at Alice with a cruel gaze. "You should be the saintess of this temple, right? Now, I'll give you a chance. Open the passage to the trial ground immediately, or I'll crush Otto's head. I'll only give you 3 seconds. If you don't give me a clear answer, don't blame me for being merciless. I'll start counting now. 1, 2, 3. Alice's pretty face instantly turned pale when she saw the bloody Otto's beneath Pang Tong's foot. She gritted her teeth and said, "Let Otto's go, and I agree to open the trial grounds." Hee hee. I like people who know how to adapt to circumstances. Since you've agreed, I'll return this trash to you. Grinning, Pang Tong kicked Otto's over to Alice. He crossed his arms and quietly waited for Alice to open the tunnel to the trial ground. On the other hand, Feng Long and the others simply stood aside and watched coldly. Their goal was the same as Pang Tong's. They all needed Alice to open the passage to the trial grounds. Thus, they naturally wouldn't stop Pang Tong's actions. After handing Otto's over to the 2 maids, Alice glanced indifferently at Pang Tong, Feng Long, and the others. She said indifferently, "Follow me into the sacred hall. If you want to open the tunnel to the trial ground, you'll need the help of the sacred hall." After saying that, Alice ignored Feng Long, Pang Tong, and the others. She took the lead and entered the sacred hall at the back of the corridor. Feng Long and Pang Tong looked at each other and followed Alice into the sacred hall without hesitation. In their opinion, Alice was completely powerless. She couldn't play any tricks in front of them. A huge crystal ball floated in the middle of the sacred hall. At this moment, the crystal ball was emitting a lustrous white light. Alice came in front of the crystal ball and knelt on the ground with a devout expression. She put her palms together and chanted an obscure incantation. After that, Alice extended her jade-like hand and gently touched the surface of the crystal ball. Immediately, an extremely dazzling white light erupted from the crystal ball. The white light, which was like a scorching sun, gradually gathered above the crystal ball and gradually formed a huge door of light. This door of light was 100 feet tall and 50 feet wide. The trial ground is on the other side of the door of light. Right now, the trial ground is out of control. I don't know what will happen inside. So, you'd better take care of yourselves. Alice said coldly. Feng Long narrowed his eyes and stared at the door of light. No one knew what he was thinking. Pang Tong, on the other hand, snorted coldly and gave Alice a warning glare. He lifted his foot and was about to step into the door of light. However, the moment he lifted his foot, the identity token on his waist suddenly vibrated and emitted a dazzling white light. HM. The identity token lit up. Another team is coming. Feng Long, didn't you say that there are only 2 teams in the entire holy city? Why is there another team here? Pang Tong stopped and looked at the token on his waist that was vibrating strangely. He frowned and said, "On this sandstone island, there shouldn't be a team that can threaten our 9-Dragon City and your Thunder Universe City. Don't tell me you're afraid of that team." The token on Feng Long's waist also vibrated. However, he didn't care at all. He just stared at Pang Tong with a mocking expression. Afraid? I, Pang Tong, have never been afraid of anything. However, I'm a little curious. Your 9-Dragon City and our Thunder Universe City are ranked at the top of the high-grade cities. Both of you are powerful existences. What I don't understand is that there is actually a team that dares to compete with us when they know that both of our teams exist. They are quite courageous. However, I wonder which team is that reckless team? Pang Tong laughed mischievously. Actually, I'm also a little curious about the origin of that team. Why don't we wait and see for the time being? Let's see which team dares to compete with our two teams for the control of the island. Feng Long crossed his arms and the corners of his mouth curled up. Dang dang dang. The two teams didn't have to wait for too long. Clear footsteps came from outside the sacred hall. Soon after, 3 figures appeared at the entrance of the sacred hall. We finally made it. That light door should be the entrance to the training ground. The leader of the 3 figures was a black-haired young man. This young man was Zhuoan, who had rushed over in a hurry. As soon as he entered the sacred hall, he placed all his attention on the light door. The 3 of them had naturally encountered the injured priestess Zhou Shui when they were in the corridor leading into the sacred hall. Priestess Zhou Shui had told the 3 of them everything that had happened without hiding anything. As a result, the 3 of them were able to tell at a glance that the huge door of light was the entrance to the trial grounds after entering the sacred hall. Swoosh! The appearance of Zhuoan and the other 2 immediately attracted the attention of the teams from 9-Dragon City and Thunder Universe City. However, when the 2 teams discovered that the token on Zhuoan's waist was only a mundane rank token, a strange expression appeared in everyone's eyes. A team from a low-grade city. Hee hee. You guys really overestimate yourselves. You're obviously trash from a low-grade city, but you actually dare to compete with us, 2 high-grade cities. I really don't know if water has entered your heads. Pang Tong grinned and laughed, not hiding the contempt and ridicule on his face. The corners of Feng Long's mouth curled into a smile. Although he had already guessed that the team would be from a low-grade city, he didn't expect it to be from a low-grade city. This made Feng Long uninterested in Zhuoan and the other 2. How strong could a team from a low-grade city be? It was likely that none of the 3 would survive after entering the training ground. Ignore these 3 guys. Pang Tong, will go in first. The control center of the Sandstone Island belongs to our 9-Dragon City. I'm afraid it won't be so easy for your Thunder Universe City to obtain it. Ha! With a loud laugh, Feng Long led the team from 9-Dragon City and entered the light door without hesitation. Soon, they disappeared from everyone's sight. Pang Tong narrowed his eyes and stared at Feng Long's group, who had disappeared into the light door. He coldly snorted and said, "You guys are really confident. The training ground isn't so simple. It won't be easy for your 9-Dragon City to pass through." As he spoke, Pang Tong's gaze directly focused on Zhuoan and the other 2 in front of him. The corners of his mouth curled slightly as he said, 3 trash from a low-grade city. Let me kindly remind you that you should know your limits. Otherwise, you will die an unjust death. After speaking, Pang Tong waved his hand and led the team from Thunder Universe City into the light door. Gu Xian, Wu Ying, the 2 of you don't have to go in. Priest Qiushui has already reminded you that the training ground has already been eroded by the power of the King of Evil Beings. If the 2 of you enter, I'm afraid it will be difficult for you to protect yourself. I can go in by myself. Looking at Gu Xian and Hu Wuying beside him, Zhuoan said with a calm expression. Hearing this, Gu Xian and Hu Wuying hesitated for a moment. In the end, they nodded. They also knew that their current strength was too weak and couldn't help Zhuowen at all. Therefore, they didn't stubbornly follow Zhuowen into the training ground. Zhuowen, you have to be careful. If you really can't hold on, then erase the words on the identity token. That way, you can directly teleport out of the Vitality Tower. Gu Xian and Hu Wuying both nodded and said. Nodding slightly, Zhuowen turned around and was about to enter the light door when a graceful woman with long blonde hair suddenly blocked his path. You are, the Saintess Alice? Looking at the blonde beauty in front of him, Zhuowen asked with some uncertainty. Nodding, Alice stared closely at Zhuowen and said, You are Zhuowen. I heard Priest Qiushui often mention you. I also know that you have a powerful power to destroy evil beings. Perhaps, you really can pass the test of the training ground and master the power of the Holy City. I have a small request. I hope that after you obtain the power of the Holy City, you can help our vestigial clan destroy the King of Evil Beings under the seal. Otherwise, when the King of Evil Beings breaks out of the seal, the entire vestigial clan on the Sandstone Island will be exterminated. Looking at Alice in front of him, Zhuowen said with a smile, You are so confident that I can pass the test of the training ground? You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.